Just checking audio online. Thank you.
We're doing that tomorrow. I'll look at that guy's hair.
Isn't that a mullet?
They're just obviously starting.
I got my hair cut.
Oh, it's quite a head of hair.
Oh, come on. You had hair like that back in the 70s.
Hers? No, I didn't grow up.
People haven't turned their video off. People don't do this. Mm-mm. No. I've turned my video.
If I could ask anybody online to just mute your applications at this point, we think we're getting some feedback through. For the record, you're all allowed to talk right up until 7 o'clock, so you got 1.5 minutes left. Look at that, I get to call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. So welcome, everybody. It's our regularly scheduled council meeting for April the 14th, 2025. As we call the meeting to order, we always like to just take a moment and acknowledge that we're holding these meetings on the traditional territories of the Coast and Strait Salish peoples, specifically the Lekwungen-speaking people known today as the Songhees and the Esquimalt nations, and their connections to these lands continue to this day. We are down to 5 councillors today. But we have enough to get through our business. Can I have up first, I'm going to make a suggestion here that we move the 2 portions that allow for public input, 10.1 and 10.2, to prior to following section 7. So that would be a, if, I don't know if council's amenable to that, but it's seek, yes. Okay, so I have a mover and a seconder to amend the agenda to, so this is 10.1 and 10.2 will follow behind section 7. So with that amendment, can I have approval of the agenda? Moved and seconded, any discussion? All those in favor, any opposed, none opposed? We have adoptions of the minutes, we have 2 here, can I move them both and we can get to a, oh, Councillor Green is online, welcome Councillor Green, I see you there.
And Mayor Councillor Braithwaite's online too.
Oh, you are, fabulous, thank you Councillor Braithwaite. Councillor Braithwaite's a long way away right now, so it's a big deal for her to be able to join us. So that's great. We have 6 of 7 here tonight. Then, so have a mover to move the adoption of minutes. Moved and seconded. I'll take an extra moment here and look online as well. Is there any changes, corrections, or amendments to those minutes? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Any opposed? Unopposed? And then we just have a rise and report, and someone to move and rise and actually, I guess it's just in here, it's done. We don't need to actually do anything with that. My remarks, there's a crowd here, so I'll try and keep my remarks short. One, I just want to express my appreciation for the Association of Vancouver Island Coastal Communities, who had their regular AGM and conference this weekend. Councillor Appleton was able to join myself up there. It's a great opportunity for learning and networking and dealing with resolutions related to policy changes at the province. This is our voice to the province. So we did have a motion last year asking for some adjustments to the childcare regulations, and so that passed pretty much unanimously at that body, so it'll go to UBCM for submission to the province. I was also able to attend a very worthwhile meeting with all the mayors and the regional district chairs for the island, which I appreciated the province having some representation to answer some questions and move some things forward. Also want to just acknowledge we had 2 new police officers sworn in this morning. So our Oak Bay local police, and both of them are really exemplary, have exemplary experience with, but also just a passion for community policing. So it was great to see them. It was almost as crowded as this in there this morning with all the friends and family. So it's kind of nice to see the community out for that. Also had an opportunity to meet with the Uplands Neighborhood Association last week, just with answer general questions, mostly around housing. But I think it's a good precursor to the fact that we have a town hall coming up on April 24th. So if anybody wants to come out and talk to council about items of interest to you, that's an opportunity. You can make comments, or you can ask questions, and the intention is just to we have some public input at this table, but it's not an easy place to have a dialogue, so it's just an opportunity for us to have those conversations as well, and that's a regular thing we're trying to do. We also, the Business Improvement Association hosted an event adjacent to their AGM, and so I appreciate Councillor Patterson was also able to go to that and meet with the members of the BIA. The Capital Regional Hospital District, which I chair, just completed its budget approval. So its process is it funds capital, large and small, for the island health in the region. It's really an important tool to help them get a lot of their medium-sized and smaller projects through. That's a pretty significant budget. It's about $6.7 million, which does obviously a significant amount for the region. And I think I'll leave the last one because it's not that important and it would take too long. So I'll move on to items on the agenda. I'm assuming we're going to have some use of this. There is a public comment and question period. So this is a chance we have for members of the public to speak to council about issues of interest to you. First person can come forward now, and just some brief preamble. I'll just ask that you state your name, your municipality of residence, keep your comments to 3 minutes, and we have a maximum allowable amount of time in the meeting, but we'll try, if there's a number of people who wish to speak, we'll try and make sure that we give that opportunity to everyone. We have some people there as well. And that's it. I think the other thing I always just like to ask, especially when you have big crowds, is that sometimes we have very diverse opinions coming to this microphone. Our job is to listen with an open mind. We're actually legislatively required to do so. But also just we want to make sure that everybody in the room is comfortable with coming up here. It's a nerve-wracking experience coming to this microphone at times. So just, I guess, don't know catcalling or booing or cheering or anything else of that nature. We just want to make sure everybody's opinions feel welcome at this table. With that, welcome.
Does the music start if we go over?
I will just ask you to wrap up politely. That's all we have. Yes, I think one of the staff has a giant hook that we can pull, but we try not to use it. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, you need to sort of push the button in the middle there to turn on the microphone. Perfect.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. My name is Terry Wright, and I've lived with my wife at 3210 Woodburn Avenue for the past 34 years. My comments relate to the proposed rezoning at 3223 Henderson Road, a property that our lot adjoins and which council will soon be considering. We were approached by the applicant early last fall to see if we would support his efforts to subdivide a lot in order to raise funds to stay in his home. Given our desire to see all of our neighbors be able to stay in their home as long as they can, we indicated support in principle, but did express reservations about understanding better the degree of blasting that will be required. Given that our foundation sits on the same rock strata as the subject property, there's a big open rock face and a lot of blasting will be required to create an even grade to build on. Since that time, the provinces of BC has introduced the R4 zoning. And we now face the possibility of not one, but two fourplexes being built in our backyard. We met with the applicant and we asked that he consider agreeing to a restrictive covenant to manage the form and scope of a future build to try and protect, at least in part, the integrity of the neighborhood. Unfortunately, we were unsuccessful. We're also concerned that we're going to lose at least one large oak, probably the second oak, and the one big cedar on the property. That'll eliminate the tree canopy and it's going to eliminate our privacy. Even with all of that, we are still supportive of the creation of a new lot if in fact it enables the neighbor to stay in their home. But we would ask council to consider ensuring that the density of the current lot is shared across the two lots or some other form that allows for whatever to be built in the future to be in keeping with the neighborhood. We'd also like to know that some steps can be taken to manage the impact of blasting and that it doesn't all fall on us and the other three adjoining neighbors to do that. If this cannot be done, then we have to oppose the subdivision on the basis that it will result in a significant risk to our property, a loss of virtually all of the tree canopy to the north and northwest, and an unsupportable potential density of 8 units in a neighborhood that is basically 1 or 1.5 story homes, albeit most like the subject property with suites. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Thank you for your time. Next person can come forward. Just on these pieces, please come forward. So subdivisions by themselves are technical things. They meet criteria. They don't come to council. I'm assuming if this is in a queue to come to council, there's probably some variances and so forth requested. I do want to let people know for those applications where there are variances, there is a notification of neighbors when it's coming to council, and there's an opportunity for councillors for residents to weigh in at that time as well. So I don't want people to feel like they have to panic and wonder when it's going to happen. If that does happen, it would come here. But again, if it's a technical subdivision that meets the criteria, it does not come to council. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. My name is Robert Bettauer, and I've lived at 2958 Eastdown Road in Oak Bay for the past 12 years. My comments relate to the proposed development at 2298 Lansdowne Road. I would like to reinforce that I support reasonable, measured densification of our community that follow the vision of the official community plan for Oak Bay and adheres to our existing bylaws. I also believe strongly that developers bring forward projects that understand the characteristics of sites and immediate neighborhoods and their environment. I disagree with one-off applications that do not provide sufficient opportunities for the community to comment and provide input. We all enjoy and have contributed to our remarkable quality of life in this community and should be provided every opportunity to help preserve that quality. I believe it is also important when connecting to the official community plan for Oak Bay that new relevant information like the construction of 423 beds for the new Camosun student residence at Lansdowne campus be included. That project is scheduled to be completed in the fall of 2027. Such information has a material impact on the proposed development for 2298 Lansdowne Road, given the proximity and the increased congestion that will greatly impact the immediate area. I believe the development as currently presented is too large for the site and should be drastically reduced to fit more appropriately into the character of the neighborhood and our community plan for Oak Bay. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you today.
Thank you, Mr. Bettauer. Anybody who's interested in that Camosun application, there is a presentation coming right immediately after the public participation period. Please come forward. Yeah, so that's that. I also just want to make sure that we're clear on public process on these applications. So any application that's not complying with bylaws does have a public participation process. And so I think we're just having a discussion with staff today about how we might make this a little bit more streamlined, but it's really the onus is on the application or on the applicant on any of these applications to try and address community concerns or needs. We require that they have a public input session to hear from the community so they're not caught blindsided when they bring an application forward. Everything else, staff are there to kind of manage the technical piece. We have advisory bodies that give their narrow piece, but it's really not until it comes towards council, and then only if council feels it has merit is there a public input. And the intention of that is because it can change multiple times through the course of an application process. And so that's the logic of it. But for the most part, when you're speaking to applications, so if you have the contact information, so we're speaking to the applicant to share your concerns, because we know we're going to hear them when it comes back to this table at the end of the day. So that's certainly the best process, because at this point, we have no say into any application until it reaches the council table. Please go ahead.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Yvette Wells. I live at 3222 Woodburn. I'm directly adjacent to the property that Terry Wright just spoke to at 3223 Henderson Road. Our property line lines up directly with that one. And I appreciate your comments about there are other opportunities, but I think it's worthwhile making sure that people really understand the severity or the sincere concerns that neighbors have about what's happening in and around Woodburn. There's a couple of developments, and I think you see the crowds coming out to express those concerns. And I don't think we are certainly not opposed to people subdividing their lots and creating single-family home development with infill. That's not the issue. The issue is multi-family dwellings on smaller lots that are tall, that are out of character with the rest of the neighborhood. And I think we would be directly impacted by that. We were approached by the owner, as Terry was in the fall, and we expressed support for a single-family home going in there. Like Terry and other neighbors around there, we are concerned about the blasting. I'd like to see and understand what Oak Bay's blasting requirements will be for this property. I know there's been use before of restricted covenants and development agreements, and I think that there's something there that can be used here to come to a kind of an agreement. But if there is something more than a single-family house going in on that lot, it's not huge, we will be objecting to that. So I just think it's worthwhile us taking the opportunity to be able to come out and let council know that there are concerns that haven't been addressed by the development proposal so far. We haven't seen any evidence of a willingness to consider restrictive covenants or development agreements on that lot. And again, we're very concerned about the blasting for obvious reasons, given that we're, a stone's throw away from where that would be happening, and our foundation also sits on the same rock bed. In the olden days, they just built on top of it. That's why we have a bit of a wonky basement. And now they blast it, and it's significant impact to neighbors for sure. So thanks for the opportunity, and we'll be back.
Thank you very much. Please, the next person want to come forward. I will say a couple of things just to inform the audience here as well. We've asked staff to come back and just help us understand what options we have for managing or regulating blasting. It's a bit of a gray area in terms of municipal control. So that will be coming back to us, I believe, in either end of this month or sometime in May. So that's just something that will help us allow to understand what our options are. At this point, it's essentially you're allowed to do what you're allowed to do within the bounds of the excavation. Okay, that's it. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Megan Taylor. I'm a resident at 1611 Hampshire Road, where I live with my family and have for a number of years. Oak Bay has a district bylaw, 3531, which prohibits the use of lands, buildings, and structures. 5.1.1 sub 20 places a restriction on the use of private residential dwelling units for what's essentially short-term rentals less than 30 days. And why I'm at council today is because I would like council to consider adjusting that to align with the provincial legislation, which gives an exemption for principal residences. That matters to my family in this community because 3 or so times a year, we like to leave the community and venture often abroad, sometimes to a ski resort in British Columbia. And in the past, we have used Airbnb to Airbnb our home. It's often somebody who already lives in the community, who has family coming, who wouldn't otherwise be able to have family close. And there are a number of people that we've gotten to know over the years who love coming to Oak Bay. They love staying for a week or two in our home, using the shops on the avenue, stimulating our economy. Some of them have used Oak Bay Beach Hotel in the past, which is no longer an option for them because they now have children and the hotel doesn't allow children in the pool, and that limits the number of people who choose to go to the hotel. And we see a lot of economic benefit to the community when our house would otherwise be empty. Now, it's not a problem. Our house can be empty. But I don't understand, I guess, why Oak Bay's bylaw doesn't align with the provincial short-term rental requirements, which is just that it has to be your principal residence. And I think it's fairly simple for council to make a slight adjustment to that bylaw to allow for your principal residence. And I think if you studied the numbers, you would probably find that there is a great benefit to our community. The people who come and stay don't use any water other than what we as a family of 5 would use. And we pay for that water. We pay for that electricity. They don't bring vehicles other than the vehicle that they would normally have, which sits in our one of 2 spaces, one covered, one not, that we have in the municipality. So I don't think there's a reason for the municipality not to do it. And I'd like council to consider why you're out of step from the province and whether or not there's actually a benefit for the residents of the community to align with that provincial standard. And we certainly see a great benefit for our family. And I think there are others in the community who will also see a benefit. And I think if there are concerns that the council has, I'd be interested in knowing about them. I wrote, but you told me I had to come to council. But I think that you could probably find that many of them would be, there would be additional benefits if you required, for example, a business license and you charged a fee like the province charges. Those fees are relatively minor, $200, $250. But if you did a number of them over a period of time, then I think you would see a benefit to the municipality in that regard as well. So I'd be interested in knowing, in answer to my emails, why you're not doing it or to see it changed.
Sure. I think
Thank
we actually
you.
have a meeting scheduled. I think you have a meeting scheduled through Jennifer with me. It's coming up soon. I'll let the next person come up and I'll try and answer the question while the next person's coming up.
Sorry, do you mean I have a meeting with you?
I think so.
No, I
Oh,
don't.
somebody has reached out. Maybe it was, I'm not sure what's going on with that. Okay, I'll find out.
Okay, thank you.
But just a very short answer to the question as to the why. The next person can come forward. It is something that's on our radar, absolutely. We had a blanket ban in the past, just from a lack of resources to do any kind of management of it. So when the province brought this forward and started to offer that they could do the hard work of sort of keeping track of where the Airbnbs are and provide that information to us, that's changed the game a little bit, so that I'm actually not sure if the regulations are complete at this point, but they are providing that now. So that does allow us to do it. So then it's just really a staff capacity issue and a priorities for council issue. So I don't have the details for you, but just so you know, it's not something that we've taken a principled stand on, but it has historically been just sort of a blanket ban because that was the only way we could manage the proliferation of the Airbnb. So I think we have an opportunity here for that. So just so you know, it's not really a back and forth, Councillor Smart, but
I was just going to ask for a point of clarification because I thought that the motion brought forward a year ago had that as part of our report
Yes.
coming back for home-based business. Okay.
yeah, it is on, like I said, it's in our work plan. It's just has not been finalized yet, but I don't have the answer as to when it is. So. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Jerry Ann Knowles-Robson, and I'm a long-term resident of Oak Bay, 30 years in my home, and I want to speak about the bike lane proposal for St. Anne and Monterey Streets. My St. Anne Street home is described in Stuart Stark's book on page 22 as the economical bungalow-style dwelling favored for its cozy qualities. Fortunately, I have a small parking pad. Other heritage properties on St. Anne only have street parking. I've listened to safety concerns about cycling, but with no data on frequency or severity of accidents along St. Anne, it is a concern rather than a fact. When my children were young, I successfully convinced the council of the day to install a four-way stop at the corner of Cranmore and St. Anne so that kids walking to school could cross safely. That four-way stop is still the only safe pedestrian crossing on the St. Anne corridor between Oak Bay Avenue and Bowker Avenue. In addition, I was able to have them approve a signed 30-kilometer-hour playground zone adjacent to Firefighters Park, where previously the speed limit had been 50 kilometers per hour and the only signage warned of ducks crossing. My safety concerns in relation to the proposed AAA protected bike lanes include a blind curve where Monterey meets St. Anne in front of the fire hall, fire trucks and police cars responding to emergencies, and vehicles that take a wide curve into the pedestrian path marked on the road. I'm also concerned about increased parking pressure from visitors to Oak Bay Village and to firefighters' ball field and playground. Adding a protected bike lane that could increase risk of accidents and will certainly limit parking for visitors and residents is not in keeping with the active transportation strategy that is meant to support all users. In fact, it could mean that residents with mobility issues become unable to age in place. Last fall, a sanitary drain line connection caused a sewer backup in my home. Homeowners insurance covered damage in my home, but not the portion of the drain line that extends between the property line and the district sewer. The quote from Oak Bay's engineering department for work was just shy of $10,000, with contingency for additional costs that could include traffic control. Would I also be responsible for repairs to a bike lane? Residents in other municipalities don't have to worry about extra costs for municipal property. As a resident, I'm concerned about the failing state of Oak Bay's infrastructure amid pressure to increase density and the proposed debt of over $100 million during a time of economic uncertainty. I would like Council to focus on core services, roads, water, and sewer lines that benefit everyone in the community rather than new projects that benefit a few and are clearly detrimental to others. I would like to request that Council change the default design from the existing AAA framework for protected bike lanes to a lighter approach, which would be far less expensive and less invasive to the community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Again, I'll just, for public information, the first step of, so we have have on paper our 9 priority or 9 active transportation routes with a few sort of ancillary routes. That is in the plan. And the first step of us sort of looking at those in detail really is coming at the May 22nd meeting.
May 22nd?
Sorry, April 22nd,
April 22nd.
thank you.
Okay.
And that is where we're going to be looking at our communications and consultation process. So thank you for your comments tonight.
Thank you.
And I just want to just circle back very briefly, please come forward, to Mr. Wright on the subdivision ask. So I just got a text from staff. I'm not going to ask staff for guidance live in the room here. I'm responding to your question related to a subdivision, but there can be many, apparently there's some rezoning or other aspects of that change how and when we do public consultation. So I'm going to just ask offline if you can maybe just reach out to staff to just planning@oakbay.ca is the best number or email to go to, and just ask and understand what the public input process is for that. Because if it has more complexity than that, then it's getting into a whole range of options that I don't want to try and get into in a public participation process. Thank you. Welcome.
Good evening, Honourable Mayor and Councils. My name is Fiona Warrington. I live at 3280 Woodburn. We've been there nearly 40 years now. And I'll explain to you how important my community is to me. From the time we've lived there, we've raised our 3 boys. I've been on PAC chair. At the high school, I've served 5 years on the police board. I was elected to council, as were you. I sat on the chair of Parks and Recreation Commission for another 6 years. And a beaver leader and a cub leader and stuff. This is my community, and like you, it's very important to me, and I love it. And I think when you have a community, you put into it, but you also care for it, and that's your job. And for me, I feel that our OCP has tried to define that pride and joy we have in our community, and still recognizes the need to make this available to others. So changes are inevitable and can be desirable. Infill, multiplexes, replacing single-family homes can be a bit terrifying, but not when done sensitively and appropriately in their design and build. Within a couple of blocks from our house on Henderson, there'll be 2 new fourplexes, corner lots accessed off a busy street with bike lanes, as most of our busy streets have, and not overly infringing on their neighbors. No 3-story walls blocking light, and destroying the neighbor's privacy. No additional traffic from 13 units. So obviously I'm referring to the 2298 Lansdowne property. And by the way, if access is off Woodburn, this is no longer a development off of a busy connecting road. This is actually a development off a very quiet dead-end road. So I'm not quite sure how it really fits in the OCP as being on a collector road. The requests for mass and coverage and rezoning, the variances for the required parking probably means the additional 9 cars that the variance is requesting will be on Woodburn Avenue. You have 2 cars on either side of that street. Access is going to be very difficult to get into that development, and already we know it's a very narrow driveway. I wonder if it even meets the requirements by law for access for emergency vehicles and for other vehicles that have to get in and out as far as garbage trucks and things like that. Just to save access from the site's narrow at the end, I can't imagine a fire truck trying to get up there with traffic on both sides. To me, this proposal is overly large, sets a dangerous and maybe even thoughtless precedent for Oak Bay Council. It is your job to ensure densification is appropriate. If somebody's coming and they're going to want to have variances, you have control over that. You can stop things like crazy parking. Their guests are going to be, you're going to have guests wanting to park on that street, and if you've been on the street, you'll see it just doesn't have a lot of extra space. So I can't support 13 units on this one lot. I could support 4, 6. And by the way, I really, really strongly feel access has to come off of the collector road off of Lansdowne. That's what they wanted it for. So I'm hoping you won't support it either in this form. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, the process, you could please stand.
Yeah.
I have room for time for a couple more people, so if they want to come forward, please do so now. I just want to sort of reiterate, any applicant can bring any application. We don't stop it in its process. We do ask that they speak with the public so that the application is in alignment with people's wishes, but they can ultimately choose, and they may have some limitations that they can't meet all those pieces. And at the end of the day, we have to have an open mind. So it does come to us no matter what. It does have the input from staff and from other bodies that accompany it, and certainly we always welcome public input of those to hear the community pieces. So it's ahead of schedule on this process because that is a bit later for public input, but certainly thank you for coming out tonight. Anybody else wishes to address council? Please come forward. So this is on matters not on the agenda tonight. Yeah. Push the button, name and municipality. You don't have to be too close. It picks you up.
My name is Rob Montgomery. I live at 3431 Bon Air Place in Saanich. And I'm here about your application for variance on the Oak Bay Reservoir.
That's fine. I'll invite you back up in a few minutes
Oh,
when
okay.
that comes onto the agenda. Yeah,
Sure.
This is for items not on the
I
agenda
like to get
tonight.
the right place.
Nope, that's better to ask and be sure, so no problem at all. I should have been clearer about that. Anybody else wish to talk to council? This is about matters that are not on the agenda tonight, but it might be a matter of interest to the community at large. I don't see a lot of other, I know it's awkward sometimes coming forward, so I just like giving people the chance. We have about 5.5 more minutes left here if people wish to come forward. Okay, I'll leave that for now. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming out. I hope that provided both the opportunity for us to hear from you, but also to clarify some of the processes. I do encourage any of the land use pieces, if you are curious about when public input and if public input will be allowed, there are some rules that we have to follow under the province now that we can't have public input on some kinds of applications. So you can always write us a letter with your concerns. We will receive them, but you can also reach out to planning@oakbay.ca, and staff will do their best to explain the process and where and when that application pieces come in. On the development tracker as well, there's notifications available on there. So if things change on an application that you're curious about, it'll notify you of those changes. So those are also tools that are available to everybody in the community. And if you're just curious what's happening, you can put geographical boundaries around your neighborhood and see what's happening in your neighborhood. So there's lots of ways there to actually trigger information. Those are fairly recent tools for us. So if you're, most people aren't that familiar with them, but that's on our website called the Development Tracker. Okay, thank you. As I said, we changed the, next up we have Camosun College presentation, which is the Lansdowne Student Housing Project. I suggested that earlier, that if people are interested in some of those details, they could stick around and listen to that. It probably is of interest to people in that area. And yes, if anybody wishes to leave, please just, you can leave and you can. So for those in the overflow room, it looks like we'll have enough room for you to move into this room if you so desire. It's a little more comfortable and nicer to watch in person than on TV.
Sure, I don't think that would hurt, actually. Instead of standing behind me. Is that okay? Oh, yeah. There's 4 of us, so. Okay. Yeah, we just need one person.
Well, welcome. I guess we're not doing any kind of introduction here, so I'll just let you introduce yourselves and go in the order you see fit, and you have up to 10 minutes for the presentation. And if there's any questions, we'll have council ask those questions. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I am Tyson Loreth, Director of Campus Planning and Capital Projects at Camosun College.
Mark Holland with West Plan.
Hi, good evening, Council. I'm Glenn Cook, Project Manager for BTY, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today.
Hi, I'm Marion LaRue. I'm an architect with Dialogue Architecture and Engineering. Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. Mr. Loreth, I think you're up first.
So I just want to say Camosun College respectfully acknowledges that our campuses are both situated on the territory of the Kwanghan, Songhees, Kosapsum, and Wasanich people. We honor their knowledge and welcome that to all students who seek education with us. As you can see up on the presentation on the screens, Camosun College is proud to be part of the Oak Bay and Saanich communities. We are one of the largest public colleges here in British Columbia. Very proud to be a top employer in 2025. We have 1,400 employees and have 12,000 students on both campuses combined. We're very happy to contribute to the community in such aspects of 9,000 medical grade masks have helped Island Health over the past 5 years. And we look forward to working with the Justice students in providing clothing drives to our place. What we are very proud of is the annual student spending impact of $60 million and our annual impact of over $900 million combined. We're here to talk about our upcoming application of a student residence at the Lansdowne campus. We've identified that over 170 of our employees are Oak Bay residents. As you can see up on the screen, we also have over 800 students that have registered addresses in Oak Bay. I am an Oak Bay graduate, but as of right now, we have 337 Oak Bay graduates attending Camosun College as of right now. It should be noted that the project as a whole is in Oak Bay, but both Oak Bay and Saanich combine our Lansdowne campus as well. A couple interesting facts that we thought would be important to come forward. 73% of our students come from Vancouver Island. 40% of those domestic students live outside of the CRD. As you can tell, we've talked about the 12,000 students. We all know that housing is a challenge in today's world, and that doesn't go by a student having the similar challenges. We've shown that analysis for Camosun could have up to 950 beds. We also recognize that having student housing going forward helps academically, personally, and social benefits for students and the community. I'm going to pass it over to Mark, and he's going to finish off the presentation.
Thanks, Tyson. Your Worship, Council, it's a pleasure to be here to continue this discussion. The project objectives here. So the province has provided funding for this project, and it's going to be moving forward in an expedited process. We sat down with the team to look at kind of what the objectives were. We're looking to obviously contribute to housing, but in particular contribute to the student housing need. So this project will have over 400 bedrooms, which is otherwise 400 students, which would otherwise be traveling or living in basement suites here in Oak Bay. So it's a significant contribution. This also minimizes the needs for students to travel. We all remember traveling as a student in various forms, buses, bikes, old Volvos and Datsuns in my case. So this is a really important way to keep the students on the campus and in the community. This helps us keep the student energy on campus. Unlike UVic and many other universities that have significant student housing on their campus, Camosun doesn't offer that until now. And so this brings eyes on the street, increases safety, creates a sense of that student vitality that would be there 24/7 as opposed to just during business hours primarily. With that in mind, we'll be providing or proposing to provide a small cafe, a very small amount of one little retail shop to help the students. Hillside Mall is obviously within walking distance, but it is still a bit of a distance to get down there. So this helps keep that energy, keep some of the money, and that also stays in Oak Bay. The other interesting objective we noted is that the part of the site that is in Oak Bay, which I'll switch to the next slide there. Does it go? There we go. The part of this site that is in Oak Bay is just a parking lot. So this is a very underutilized and poor use of excellent land. Most all the development is in the Saanich side of the dotted line here. So this is our first movement into this part of the community, and that brings us to you. So this is a much better use of the land that is the endowment that Camosun has, and we're working. There's a smattering of trees throughout the area. Some of them are nice Gary oak trees. Some of them are basically weed trees that just got left alone. So this building will be figuring out how to fit in there. I think the other component of that one is that Camosun will outlast all of us, several generations more, and so planning a good urban forest for the future makes a lot of sense in a place like this. So this particular location of the site here, sorry, go back, jumping ahead. I think I'm pointing in the wrong, there we go. As you know, your boundary runs up Foul Bay. In this case, Foul Bay moves over to become Henderson, and it's in that triangle there that we'll be locating it. As you can see from the green, we're very early days in this process. The building footprints are being moved around. What's on each of the floors is being moved around at a very early schematic scale, but we wanted to come to council at this stage to let you know that this was underway, to open the conversation, to give you the information that we have and update you on how fast this is moving. Things get around in Oak Bay very, very quickly. As one of the earlier speakers already knew the number of bed count for this project, so I figured it was appropriate to inform council. With the building being just at its very earliest stage, this is a simple auto sketch mock-up of just a 6-story building. We'll be looking at a 6-story building here, wood timber frame. We're about 423 beds and about 118 kitchens. So we all immediately went to the zoning bylaw and got into the definitions and spent time with your colleagues here, with Brian, figuring out, are these housing units? Brian has confirmed with the Minister of Housing that yes, indeed they are. So your zoning bylaw permits a unit to be a kitchen with up to 3 non-related folks, so there may be a few extra bedrooms that don't count, but we're pleased to say that there's going to be about 118 housing units that come to your housing targets as a result of this project. In terms of the process, as we saw here that has played itself out here already here this evening, we have started early discussions with staff. So the team here, Glenn and the team, began conversations with staff about 6 months ago, their very first conversations. And they've started, and we're now on a bi-weekly meeting with your team to make sure that we stay on track. We're essentially not letting the arrow leave the bow. The bow follows the arrow all the way along. So that's why here we can stay on contact, and that's part of what we're here tonight for as well. Of particular interest at the beginning was engineering and the capacity that your infrastructure has in this particular area. So the 2 engineering teams, the applicant team and Oak Bay's team, have gotten together very early. They're already doing a review. We're pleased to say that at the initial review, a good deal of the water, sanitary, storm capacity that is needed is there. There is some upgrades that will be required. However, they're working together right now actively to figure out exactly what those will be and what we need to bring to the table. We'll be bringing in a rezoning and OCP submission imminently. So we're working on that application right now for the land use, the density, the envelope of the lot, and the OCP amendment to permit the housing here on this particular site. There's some quirky things in that we don't need to go into just around what triggered this, but we do want to follow the process appropriately. So we hope to have an application in within a couple of weeks, and we'll move forward with that. And if there is other design discussions that need to come, then we'll on-ramp those as fast as we can to join the conversation. The community obviously is going to be interested in this process. As you have seen, the neighborhood around the area has organized in response to a few of the applications that are in play. And so they're very well connected. And so we are planning to open that conversation with them formally within about 4 weeks. We would open it sooner if we had anything to show them, but we don't have enough to show them yet. So they're literally out there still doing the consulting studies. I think we got the first numbers in from the parking study just before dinner tonight. So we're fully underway, and as soon as we have sufficient capacity information, then we will host an open house, at least one, just to start with here on Camosun grounds there. They've got some great facilities, and we'll invite everyone to come in and we can talk with them at length about what's proposed and get their feedback on how that works. I'd also like to just make the observation here that we would love to keep a dialogue open with yourselves. It's as your worship noted here, when an application arrives on your plate, a year, 2 years later, you haven't been part of the discussion. That'll be a bit of a challenge. So we'd like to open that discussion. So to
Mr. Holler, I'm
conclude,
just going to point out, we got about a minute and a half left
Thank
in
you.
our procedure by law.
Perfect
Wrap
timing.
this out.
Thank you. So we see, as Tyson discussed, a lot of benefits to Oak Bay in this process. We're looking at almost $90 million in construction costs and a total budget of over $150 million that would be spent here. Of interest will be $1.3 million coming to you for ACC and DCC charges. On top of some of the other discussions around infrastructure, we expect there'll be some additional infrastructure improvements, the 118 dwelling units that go to your housing targets, and the ability to keep and support our students here in Camosun College in perpetuity. So thank you very much. The team is here to be able to answer any questions you might have.
Well, that was very fast wrap up. Appreciating this is not, this will be coming back. There's lots of community input and so forth to come. I don't want to spend lots of time on this tonight, but I do have a couple of councillors at least indicating if they wish to ask questions or make comments. So I have Councillor Braithwaite online, and then Councillor Patterson in the room, and then Councillor
Thanks so much, Mayor. Thank you. Is it okay to go ahead?
Please do.
Thank you so much. Yeah, my question is in regards to one of the comments that was made in the presentation around the 118 dwelling units that would be going towards our housing needs. And I just was that these units that would be being built here would not be going towards our housing count that the province has given us. Can we just get clarification on that, please?
Sure, thank you. I think there was initial response from the province was that student residents did not count. So, Mr. Green.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of the council. Yeah, I've obviously been having discussions with Camosun College, and as part of that process, once we knew sort of what the number of units were, both student housing or student beds, if you like, with dormitories with a shared kitchen down the corridor, and those units which were self-contained units, I did reach out to my contacts at the Ministry of Housing, and the Ministry of Housing has confirmed verbally that they believe that our interpretation is correct, i.e. those units which meet our definition of a dwelling unit in our zoning bylaw, i.e. those units where there is a kitchen, cooking facilities and sanitary facilities would count towards our housing units, and then we would also count the other student beds as part of this project in the other actions where we are also encouraging student housing in the traditional sense of the word that would also count towards our other actions in our housing target orders that we submit on a yearly basis.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Anything else, Councillor Braithwaite?
No, that's great. Thank you so very much.
Councillor Patterson and then Appleton.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and thank you to the presenters. It's an exciting project, and I'm sure it'd be very welcomed at Camosun. So nice that it's moving forward with provincial support. I do also have a question about the 118 dwelling units with kitchens, and that's about three people per kitchen. And I guess I'm just curious as to how that number is arrived at. It seems fairly generous to me, but perhaps I'm out of step.
Yeah, thank you, Council. The project is made up of a handful of different dwelling units. We have standard dormitory style that many of us are used to seeing. We have single bed occupancy, like a private studio. We also have quads, which is 4 bedrooms and a kitchen and 2 bathrooms. And I think that's where the 118 dwelling unit number can be applied to. When you see the other normal dormitory style, and I do apologize if I'm speaking out of turn, but we don't think that those are the appropriate in the lens that Brian was speaking about. So
Thank you.
we'll happy to bring that forward soon.
Thank you. Ultimately, the province is a bit mercurial on this at the best of times, so we'll, Councillor Pastor, anything else?
Yes, thank you. Thanks for that information. It just answers my curiosity, I guess, about how you arrive at those numbers. The second question is there will be parking retained within the site, I take it? And have you determined, or is there a target number of parking units that you hope to maintain on the site?
Get it. Please, go ahead, Mr. Cook.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully you can hear me. Thank you very much. As Mark perhaps referenced a little bit earlier on, this is somewhat hot off the press, and we've been undertaking our parking study the last few weeks, and we had some results today. So just to provide a bit of context, at the moment there's around 223 empty lots within the Lansdowne campus at the highest day of use over last year. So the current ageing parking lot is definitely underutilised. What our study shows is that after the construction of the building, we're expecting a net decrease in student demand of around 190 lots. Ultimately, that's because we're going to have 423 beds and students on campus that won't be commuting to campus. Now, there will be a small number of spaces that will be required for the building. We're still quantifying that, but it's going to be minimal, somewhere in the region of 20 to 40, perhaps less. So ultimately, after building completion, we're predicting a net total of around 150 parking stalls on the Lansdowne campus. That's after the building. So still ample parking available.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to make sure we're clear, like all these numbers can change, so.
Yes.
I'm a little leery about delving too far into the details when these all may change, but yeah, thank you, Councillor Patterson. I have Councillor Appleton indicated that Councillor Braithwaite asked his question, so I'll go to Councillor Green online. Welcome, Councillor Green.
Thank you. You caught me off guard. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thanks to everyone that just made the presentation. This is really encouraging and great for our community, and especially for post-secondary education in Oak Bay. My only question is, I know that Camosun is facing some budgetary challenges with the loss of some of their international education funding, and I'm just wondering, are there any implications that might affect this particular project going forward? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Councillor. As I noted earlier in the slide, we estimated over 900 beds were required by Camosun College. So I don't see the decrease in international students impacting anything to do with the project as a whole. It's kind of as if we build it, they will come. We have many students that are asking for it. It should also be noted that many students travel throughout the CRD2 site, and with student housing provided on site, have expressed interest in actually obtaining a unit and not having to travel from Souk, Langford, and Duncan over the Malahat for school. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. I don't see other questions at this time. I'll just let you go with a thank you for the presentation. I know it's of great community interest, and thank you for starting your community open houses and consultation as well. It's in the next month or so. I know that'll be very welcome. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much.
So as noted at the beginning, we just shifted the agenda around a little bit. So we're going to go to items, section 10, bylaws and permits. These are subject to public input. We have two in front of us today. One is a development variance permit for 0 Kendal Avenue, the Mount Tolmie Reservoir. And I understand we have the applicants here with us tonight as well to answer questions. Is it Mr. Green? Are you providing the, okay, welcome back, Mr. Green. Mr. Green is our Deputy Director of Community Building and Planning. Welcome.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. The district has received a development variance permit application for the Mount Tolmie Reservoir that is located off of Kendal Avenue. The purpose of the application is to reduce the required setback to the north property line from 7.62 metres to 5.38 metres and to increase the maximum permitted measurable sound level at the property line of a sound emitting structure from 40 decibels to 60 decibels. These zoning bylaw variances are required to facilitate the installation of a backup generator, which provide power to 2 of the 3 existing pump stations on the property. The addition of the backup generator is part of a series of electrical improvements to the existing pump station that the district is undertaking in accordance with the Capital Regional District's water supply master plan. There is one correction in my report that I would just like to point out, which is that there is currently very little benefit of the Mount Tolmie storage facilities in the district of Oak Bay, which is contrary to what I put in my staff report, so my apologies for that error. And so there is...
Can you just repeat that?
Yeah, so currently there is very little benefit of the Mount Tolmie storage facility to the district of Oak Bay residents. And so I think I noted in my report that this project would benefit Oak Bay residents, but that is not the case. This improvement and the pump stations currently solely benefit district of Saanich residents. Notification letters were sent out for this application, and I believe one piece of correspondence has been received, which is attached to Council's agenda. The applicants, the District of Saanich Engineering Department, are here to answer any questions that Council may have.
Very good. Why don't you come forward, and if there's questions, we'll certainly get there. I understand there may be a diagram that we can pop up on the screen if there's questions, but I think maybe, or are they included in the agenda now, pieces? I'm going to go at this point. So just process for all things related to public input. After we've had the introduction, we give the opportunity for members of council to ask any questions they may have. We'll then go to the public if there's any additional comments from the public, and then back to this table for additional questions that have arisen, and then some direction from council. So at this point, I'm going to just ask if there's questions for clarification for the applicant. Go ahead, Councillor Smart.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mayor, to staff, thank you for the thorough report. I guess I just had a few clarifying questions around, particularly around siting. So I was wondering, I guess first of all, it's hard to tell with the topography shown in the photographs, are there visibility concerns with this equipment, sight lines to neighbors, particularly with some of the trees coming out where the reservoir wasn't visible and now not only will be visible, but they will see this new generator? I just wondered if, because there's just photographs, it was hard for me to visualize that. Thank you.
I appreciate that. My name's Scott Jameson, and I'm the Manager of Infrastructure Planning and Analysis with the District of Saanich.
Welcome, Mr. Jameson.
The trees that are asked to come out, we've also been requested to have some replacement trees to still shield and cover that. And they're still working on what kind of species and stuff on that. So there is some screening and coverage that will be applied after the generator has been installed.
Thank you. Councillor Smart, please continue.
Thank you. Through Mayor to Mr. Jameson. Are you describing then that new vegetation or screening would be on that north property line between the new equipment and the neighbors, or it might be anywhere on the site?
My understanding is that it's intended to be between the equipment and the north property line, so that it covers the generators.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, to Mr. Jameson. My other question was just with regards to, we did have some of our residents reach out, just mentioning the current impact of the existing pumps. And I noticed in the report from staff that there were many upgrades happening in relation to this project. And I just wondered if the sound levels in excess of our bylaws of the existing pumps, has that been looked at as part of this project or previously to mitigate the existing noise impact of the pumps to neighbors?
We have looked at the noise. The existing pumps, they're This project was designed mostly for control and electrical backup. The existing pumps, I understand, also are around about 70 decibels in level. And the generator will be about, well, according to the manufacturers, about 65 decibels at the property line. So it wouldn't be heard above the existing pumps. The mechanical, and then that means also the sound and dampening on that would be a future project. It's not part of this. This is intended for control system, to upgrade the controls to modern standards, and then the generator to provide for backup. We have 3 or 4 blackouts a year, and in some critical times in the high flows in the summer, the upper reservoir drains fairly quickly, and that brings us to concerns for fire protection, and that's one of the drivers for the generator, to make sure that we can protect the residents in the district for fire.
Thank you. Councillor Smart?
Yeah, thank you. Just one more question through you, Mayor, and this is maybe to our staff, but I just wondered, in our emergency planning and interdistrict cooperation, are we at all having conversations with Saanich about, in an emergency, our availability to access water at this location? I was just trying to remember from our emergency planning discussions. There was discussion about only one source of water supply into Oak Bay, and talking about different regional partnerships around that. And I wondered if that impacted this reservoir location at all, particularly with the recent comment from staff around that this doesn't have a direct impact to benefiting Oak Bay residents.
I'll hand it over to Mr. Rennick, our Director of Engineering and Public Works.
Thank you. Through the Mayor, the District of Oak Bay currently only has one connection point to the Capital Regional District's water supply system, and it is at the corner of Foul Bay and Lansdowne. I can't comment to conversations that Chief McDonald might have had about coordination between the two districts, but I would say that there are fire hydrants that are serviced in District of Saanich coming from this reservoir that are very close to the municipal boundary. And so if there's a concern about an interface fire, certainly we do not directly benefit in that our residents are not taking water from that reservoir, but I would say that fire protection benefits the entire area, and fires do not tend to recognize municipal boundaries.
Thank you. Are there other questions? I'm looking online to councillors. Thank you. Don't see any. If Councillor Braithwaite, if you wish to speak, I'm going to invite you to do so now.
Thank you so much, Mayor. Actually, I do have a question.
Please go ahead.
Just out of curiosity, can staff remind me of the noise bylaw that we have in place right now? I believe it would be around heat pumps, etc., but it might be something that we could associate with this noise level as well. Thank you.
Mr. Green?
So, yeah, through your worship, the anti-noise bylaw currently doesn't have any decibel rating. Obviously, council may adopt a bylaw later this evening or give third reading to a bylaw that may have, that will put noise levels in the anti-noise bylaw in relation to heat pumps. But in relation to other noise-emitting structures, then the zoning bylaw in section 10.3 still has that requirement of no noise-emitting structure may exceed 60 decibels, hence the reason for this application before council this evening.
Anything else, Councillor Braithwaite?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Patterson?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and through you to Mr. Jameson. I do note that, of course, this is quite a change in decibel levels between existing and new equipment. But I do notice also in the report that you will not be testing the generator under full load. You'll be testing it at a reduced load. Do you have any feel for how that might affect that decibel level rating as compared to full capacity?
Mr. Jameson?
The loading, well, the engine has to work harder, so the more you load it, the louder the engine gets, just because it's running harder. So running it at idle, just a testing starting is what they're planning to do, which will be the lowest possible sound for the unit, and I would expect it to be probably about 4 or so decibels less than what it would be at operation.
Yes, thank you for that information. And also, it does say in the report that as part of this project, you are looking at some sound buffering for the project. Could you give us some idea as to when that would be incorporated into the work that's done?
The generator would be installed with sound cabinets on it, so during initial construction, the bulk of the sound dampening would be installed then. There is some additional sound dampening from the screening trees and then some flora that would be around the unit as well.
Thank you. Don't see other questions. I have just a question, too. You mentioned that there's about 2 or 3 times per year that this has to kick in and provide emergency as there's blackouts. Can you give us a sense of how often the testing happens?
I've had that discussion today with our operational staff, and they say they like to test them once a week, which I think is more aspirational than reality. Most places I've worked, the testing is once a month, and so we're working on trying to find out what the appropriate schedule is for our staff.
And is there a time of day that would normally happen? Or is it just as available?
It's usually probably between 10 and 2 would be the typical times that they would run the generators, and they just run to start to make sure that the equipment will start when it's needed.
Thank you. And the other question I had is, because it's just not clear from the report, the generator's not being located adjacent to the pump station. It's being located across between the walkway. Can you just maybe help me understand the why of that?
Certainly.
Because it obviously would move it further away from the property line if it was available to be.
Yes. What happens around the CRD's reservoir is that there's a service road immediately adjacent to the reservoir, and that service road is essential for the maintenance and operation of the reservoir. So we have to move the generator. We can't put it on top of the roof of the reservoir. We have to put it on the far side of that service road from the generator. And that puts it on the north side of the reservoir. And the reason for that location, there are actually 3 pump stations, of which only 2 of them are ever used at one time. And so the generator would be able to power any 2 of those 3 generators. And so the location on the north end is the one that provides the best access between all 3 generators, or all 3 pump stations, sorry.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And as I understand from your answer, there's no specifics about what shielding material in terms of new trees?
Not at this time. We haven't got those details.
Okay. Thank you for that. I think that concludes this. Any other questions from council this time? Oh, sorry, Councillor Green, please go ahead.
Thanks very much. Just really a general question, just for clarity. Just wondering what the processes are for monitoring the noise, and I have a bit of an understanding from the conversation recently, but the other question is the complaint process on noise. How is that handled? Is there a process in place so that the public is clear about to whom they should complain and how that will be handled? Thank you.
Sure, I'll turn to our staff for that one, because I'm sure they'll probably call us. And so what would be the process to go through to address the issue through Saanich? Mr. Green?
Yeah, through your chair, I would say that obviously we have a bylaw officer here that would be able to receive complaints, and then our bylaw compliance officer would investigate the complainant, or investigate the complaint, I should add, and then they would speak to the District of Saanich in terms of understanding that complaint and to try and resolve the complaint where possible.
Okay, thank you.
So just for clarity, excuse me, so Saanich has no hands-on responsibility then for addressing noise complaints. Is that correct?
Well, they would be the recipient of the bylaw enforcement request in that case.
Through OBEI.
Yeah,
through OBEI,
OBEI would contact Saanich, and we would send out our staff to look at the problem or the concerns, to measure the sound levels, and then we would take that to try and address them as appropriate.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Green. So as I noted at the beginning, the procedure here is questions of council. We'll invite the public, if there's anybody from the public who wishes to address us. We do have one piece of written correspondence that we have received from a neighbor. But anybody else who wishes to come and address us? Yeah. I know there's one because you came forward earlier. So if, yes, Mr. Jameson, I might just ask you to just maybe move back to the front row, and we'll invite anybody who wishes to come forward at this time. And then if there's any, we'll capture questions, and at the end of the public input, we can turn turn back to the applicant or staff. Welcome back, sir.
Yeah, thank you. My name is Robert Montgomery. I live adjacent to the reservoir in Sandwich. And I don't know where to start now. Anyway, I fail to understand any of the engineering that's going on down there or any of your complaints about it, because nothing has ever happened in the 35 years I've lived there. When the pumps do go on, it wakes me up every night. I wear hearing aids now, but I take them out. I can't support a variance of increasing the decibel level by 50%, although the gentleman just said it's at 70%, which is way above your 40% now. And your canopy of trees, I don't know where he's going to plant them because there's a service road on either side of that. So there's no place to plant trees if you're trying to shield it. My biggest concern down there is Oak Bay's responsibility for the mosquito problem. We've lived for a year and a half now with standing water on the reservoir because, quote the CRD, we don't know how to finish the project. We've hired a consultant to tell us how to finish. And, oh, by the way, we'll hire a consultant to tell us what to do about the mosquitoes. And that was the official report to our community last October. You know, drain the damn thing. Your own literature you send and Sandwich send every year, get rid of standing water in your yards. Drain everything. Drain your pots, your tires, whatever it might be.
Mr. Cameron,
and you
I don't
let
want to cut you
standing
off.
water stand there.
I'll let you just speak a little bit, but the mosquito issue is not part of the
But
variance.
it has to be, because it's all part of the CRD engineering problem that they've started down there and can't finish.
I understand your point, and I don't mind you
So
raising it with us. I'm
I
just
cannot
letting you know.
support increasing the decibel level, which is way too high now by your own standards.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Can I ask, just because you're adjacent, you said it wakes you up at night.
Sure.
Can you just share with us your experience during the daytime or other times?
Well, daytime you don't hear it, you get used to it. It's at night when you're sleeping, those pumps come on and wham, you know?
Perfect,
And
thank
by
you.
the way, they test the pumps twice a year.
Right.
At the end of the street, same generator.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else wish to address council? Yeah, please come forward, sir. I just want to acknowledge the letter, just in case anybody's wondering, from David and Gillian Cohen, which we did receive and is in front of us here tonight. Welcome, sir.
Mr. Mayor and councillors, I live on the Sandwich side, but there are 14 houses
Can I get your
on the
name?
Oak Bay side.
Sorry, sir, can I just get your name for the record?
I'm sorry.
Sorry,
yes,
could you
it's
just give your
Malcolm
name?
Smith. I
Mr.
live
Smith,
at
thank you.
3421 Bon Air, which is adjacent to the reservoir. The noise is an issue. Even now with the pumps, they're not generators, they're pumps that are worked by electricity, and the generator powers the pumps. We hear it when we're sitting in the garden. We're used to it. We've been there for 30 years. But I hope that when it's all finished, that it's well soundproofed, because I don't think it's right. There are 14 houses on Oak Bay and 9 houses on the Sandwich side. We're just here because we received this letter, so we're just talking about the sound. But if I might be allowed to talk about the aesthetics. When we moved there, it was green and grassy, and it was, I know there was maintenance, but it was used by everyone, and people used to jog around the perimeter. St. Michael's used to come over and exercise on the grass, and it was used. It was a beautiful space surrounded by lovely trees. At the moment, it's been a construction site for nearly 2 years because nobody really knows what to do with it. And I think when it's finished, aesthetics should come into it. It shouldn't just be a lump of concrete. People have enjoyed it. People putt on it, they drive on it. Dogs are not allowed on it, which is reasonable. It was a beautiful area, and I would like to see it return to being a beautiful area. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Any other members of the public who wish to speak to council on this matter? I will see online. I have someone whose name is showing as Ian Becker. Please come forward. Please go ahead.
Hi, thank you very much. Ian Becker from 2024 Kendal Avenue. And I just have a question about the variance in the sense that does the variance apply to the site in perpetuity or does it apply to the equipment? And the second part of that question is, so if we pass this variance, that means that they could install other equipment that has a 60 decibel sound that goes on all day, as opposed to their current proposal, which is just, once a week. So is the variance for the site or sort of specific to the equipment?
Right, thank you for the question. I'm going to give that to staff. Go ahead, Mr. Green.
Through your worship, yeah, the permit would be specifically tied to the civil site plan that is attached to the staff report. So so that variance would only apply to that new generator that is shown on the site plan.
Okay, I have a second question. I was just wondering if this idea of how often it's run could be in the variance to say that unless the manufacturer says we really, really should run it once a week, that the variance is to only run it once a month, which is very typical and even high frequency for a typical generator maintenance.
Mr. Green, I don't think we can attach amount of running to the variance, but it could be an agreement between parties. I'll give that over to you. We have staff talking to each other right now, Mr. Becker. Give us a second.
I can see them.
Go ahead, Mr. Green. I may just put it back to the applicant about that, but go ahead. Procedurally.
Yeah, obviously, through your worship, council has broad but not unlimited discretion when it comes to a development variance permit. And so if council wanted to add some kind of condition to the permit to attach either hours of operation or certain times of day, then we would need to potentially look at that to see the legality of whether that condition is relevant to the permit that council is potentially issuing. And so, yeah, we might need to either go back and get a legal opinion on that, or whether, but it sounds to me from what you've explained that it could be within the council's discretion to add some kind of condition to that effect, but we may need to take that back.
Sure. And Mr. Bull?
And I might add that the way the zoning bylaw regulates this noise level, it's a blanket noise level. It doesn't come with specific hours, so therefore it couldn't be varied, so to say. Right now, those things are not regulated, but as Mr. Green said, special conditions could be added. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll capture that question and maybe reflect it back to the applicant after. Mr. Becker, anything else?
No, I would just recommend that we do say that once a week is too much and change the variance. That would be my recommendation.
Great. Thank you. No, thank you. Anybody else wish to speak on this matter to council? I don't see any, so I will invite the applicant back to the table. I'm going to just try and turn it into a question. Obviously, the concern here is obviously the level of noise, but also the frequency of the generator coming on, more for testing than for emergencies.
Yes.
So maybe I'm not sure what you could share in terms of what Sanish is able to speak. If you can't speak to it right now, I understand that, but we'll ask the question anyway.
The operational division's theoretical frequency is to test it once a week. I'm pretty sure we would be amenable to reducing that to once a month. We'd have to talk with them to get everybody on board, and we probably would be able to do something like that. In terms of testing in hours, we would generally have our daytime staff do that, so if there's a restriction on that, that's something that we could also entertain and to discuss.
Thank you. And just for my clarification, because it always goes, look at the likelihood of things happening. So when testing the generator, are staff on site to do that testing?
Yes,
or is it
they
done
are.
remotely?
They have to be on site. They have to check the readings on it for voltage to make sure that the engine's running correctly. They have to warm it up, so they have to idle it for...
Fine, okay, I understand. I have a pretty good enough understanding of municipal operations to know how often we do things in the middle of the night. It's not too often unless required. Councillor Smart?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, to staff, I just had one follow-up question, and it was just with regards to the district of Saanich kindly mentioning, Mr. Jameson, that there would be new tree plantings as well as plantings to screen the neighbor to the north. And so my question for our staff is, through you, Mayor, is would those things be covered by our current bylaws, or would council tonight need to add an amendment potentially to a motion to ensure that both the new tree plantings meet our tree replacement bylaw requirements and that screening does occur along the north property line? Thank you.
Mr. Green?
Through your worship, obviously Parks Department were referred this application, and they have not asked for any replacement trees to be replaced. They essentially came back with no comments on the variance application. And so it does make me wonder, and we have one of our other arborists in the room, he may be able to help me out with this answer, but it may be that the case that our tree protection bylaw doesn't cover public land of some kind, but...
if I might add a little bit, the request for replacement trees came from one of the residents that we've been talking to, and that was one of our considerations. And so we weren't worried about whether the bylaw requires it. We would certainly want to make sure the tree species would meet approval from bylaws.
Okay. Thank you for that. I think another part of that question was just, and I'm always a little murky on this. I don't think, can we approve variances with conditions, or as this body, as the approving body, or do we just the approving body and we can withhold the approval until certain conditions are met? I'm just procedurally want to know what our options are going forward here. Mr. Bowl?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Generally, the variance itself is decided on by council, but there are some options to add conditions, or sometimes they're identified ahead of time, but it's not common, but it can be explored. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last question here is that there's, I understand sound mitigation included in the current design.
Yes.
But there's obviously levels of sound mitigation and baffling, and there's some very complicated, I'm sitting on the CRD board, we're still dealing with noise baffling at the top of one of the buildings there. So I'm just curious about like what level of baffling is there, and is that able to be increased, or is that sort of maximized for the footprint that's there now?
Excuse me. Sorry. Sound dampening is a bit of a black art, and so you have to have some experience. The manufacturer does have a lot of experience in terms of a sound dampening cabinet, so the generator is enclosed, and all of the protocols for minimizing sound would be done. And there is a diminishing point of return to try and get another decibel lower sound and stuff. And this is what we've been told is the best practice for this scenario and situation that we have.
Thank you. Councillor Appleton, did I see your hand?
Yeah, thank you, Worship, and maybe through you to staff, it's picking up on something you just mentioned there. So, I would be inclined to explore I'm not hearing that there's sort of a definitive answer about the running schedule, essentially, the mandatory schedule for running it. So, based on the question that you just asked, I'm wondering whether or not we have the ability to establish, as part of the variance application, a monthly run schedule, or is the more appropriate thing to refer it back to staff so that staff can establish the necessary run schedule with Saanich and then bring it back?
I'm going to turn to staff on that one. I mean, I think I'll turn to staff on that one. My only concern here, and maybe to Mr. Jameson as well, is putting something into like, we can make the best effort at that, but obviously there's a possibility that things might have to be run weekly for a period of time, for a month, as they're working on something. So I just want, I think the intention here need to be captured as opposed to, but I'll turn it over to Mr. Bull.
Thank you, Mayor. It would be good to, if that's council desire, to bring it back to staff and the applicant to further review. I do think I would like to caution that a condition like that is hard to enforce. Is it really effective? We hear from the applicant that there's an aspirational weekly check, but it's really less. And so maybe this is something that will arrange itself, or if there are concerns, we're going to hear it through the bylaw compliance process, and we can make Saanich aware that their testing is a little bit too proactive, perhaps. That's a suggestion on my part. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Appleton, anything else?
No, thank you, Your Worship, and I appreciate that context. It's just difficult for us to be granting a variance, and it ultimately the bylaw compliance or lack thereof is due to Saanich operations on a facility that exists within the Oak Bay boundary. So it's very difficult to manage. We're potentially contemplating a variance that could potentially be considered to be disruptive to the community, both within and without of Oak Bay. And so it's difficult to contemplate the variance without understanding what the full impact of it is, which is based on the operational frequency. So that's difficult to do. It's difficult to grant essentially a blanket variance to operate at a certain decibel level without really understanding that, if it was decided that it needed to be run, every 3 days for 2 months or something like that, then obviously that would have a significant impact on everybody surrounding there. So it's a lot different than saying it has to be run 3 times a year. Thank you, Worship.
Thank you. I do want to get to motions because we have other business to get to here tonight as well, but can I just ask one other question that Mr. Jameson, we had questions in the room tonight and I think they're legitimate. Construction zones that never end are an incredible annoyance to the community, and it is a well-used space for people walking and running and things. Do you have a timeline at this point for the completion of that remediation?
For construction completion?
Yeah.
My understanding is it's about a 3-month period because we have to run wires and conduit between all 3 pump stations for the control systems to talk with each other.
And then the broader construction that's on there right now with the fencing up and those aspects?
Unfortunately, the broader construction is the CRD's project, and we have no information or input or control over that.
Okay. Thank you. I will, just so you know, I'm happy to, if you want to reach, I'm just mayor@oakbay.ca. I'm happy to follow up with the CRD. Just fire me an email to remind me.
I have a question for him.
We're completed the public input portion.
You brought up the
Sorry, just speak quickly.
trees, sir.
Yes, sir.
Those
Just address your,
additional to the ones
excuse me,
that
sir,
were
just
cut down?
address your comments through to me.
Sorry.
So you wanted to, can you just ask your question to me?
Yes, the trees that they tend to plant, are they in additional to the trees they're gonna cut down to do this work?
Okay, the question was, are the trees that they're going to plant be in addition to? So they would be, if planted, they would have to change at different locations, I'm assuming, because
They would have to be moved.
Very close to the property line.
5 meters between the edge of the generator and the property line, and that's where we would anticipate those trees to be planted.
Okay, so within that 5-meter boundary.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, back to this table. I need some direction from members of council. Let's certainly start with the motion to receive the report. Moved, is there a second? Moved and seconded. This is just for us to formally receive the information we've got tonight. All those in favor? And any opposed? And Councillor Green, I'll just assume that you are, yes, still there. We'll speak aloud if you're speaking against, in opposition to something. Moving then to next ask of council. Go ahead, Councillor Smart.
Well, thank you. I would ask, try the will of council to put forward staff's option number 2, that the development variance permit for 0 Kendal Avenue be approved with amendments. says council to identify, so my amendment would be to add replacement trees and provide screening at the north property line.
Thank you. Before I seek a seconder, I just want to make sure that's, because it's not technically a variance piece, but it would include that direction. So I'm going to turn to staff, Mr. Green, in terms of whether that motion, which doesn't change the variance, but would add essentially a condition on it to ensure that there are some screening trees planted. Would that be considered compliant?
Yeah, I believe so. That will be relevant to this application that is before council. I guess my question will be whether council wants to see that replacement plan or whether they are leaving that to the satisfaction of staff to approve.
Sure. I think probably to the satisfaction of the Director of Community Building and Planning would be the appropriate piece. It's really not a governance level decision at that point. Okay, so it's moved for that. Is there a seconder?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded, thank you. I think that motion's fairly straightforward and clear. Is there any discussion on the motion that's in front of us? I'm not seeing any. I'm giving people a moment to think if they wish to have any questions. No? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Smart. I'll just speak briefly if nobody else is speaking, just in favor. I think these are hard ones where there's a definitive impact to neighbors for a variance permit, tangible, noticeable to the neighbors, always sort of balancing that against the community good. And obviously this isn't so much specifically for Oak Bay, but it's a broader community good in terms of public safety. So that does weigh into it. And I am also comforted somewhat that this is really only going to be seen during emergencies and during testing, both of which emergencies will happen 24/7, but the emergency will supersede it in any case. And the testing will be during business hours. Appreciate that. That is not going to be, it will be frequent enough to probably be an annoyance to neighbors, but hopefully with the mitigations will not be significant given the decibel levels considered here. So I'm supportive of the motion as it stands and look forward to the plantings being completed as well as part of the project. Go ahead, Councillor Appleton.
Thank you, Worship, and I appreciate the amendment for mitigative measures. And I know that our colleagues in Saanich will, work to operate, only within the regime that is actually necessary. But I would certainly encourage and, strongly encourage there to be, I'm not sure what's contemplated as far as communication with the neighbor, with the neighbors once the work is done. But I think that I would encourage and hope that some sort of communication would be sent to the surrounding neighborhood and there be some kind of contact point provided for them to let them know that the nature of the operation is changing and that in fact the operational components of it do not lie with Oak Bay but rather with Saanich and to a certain extent with CRD. So I would again extend my encouragement and my hope that Saanich, as part of the installation work, will communicate with neighbors about the nature of jurisdiction and how they can approach Saanich and or CRD about any operational concerns that they have with respect to the noise.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just for my clarification, are we talking about during construction and then thereafter the operational maintenance? So that when they come out, let's say it's once a month, that we would notify members of the public that we're coming out to start? Is that what you're asking?
Councillor Appleton?
I would say that it would be to let the neighbors know what to, I would say it's actually subsequent to installation and more to do with ongoing operations, what to expect as far as what ongoing operations of these new facilities will result in as far as what to expect as far as ongoing noise and operational considerations. Because it does represent a change in what they have come to live with, essentially.
I think essentially a good neighbor type approach.
Yes, and we would find that reasonable to put in our procedures.
Very good, thank you for that. With that, I don't see other hands, so I'll call the question. All those in favor? And any opposed? Hearing none opposed, that carries. Good luck with the project, and if there's anything we can do to speed up the broader piece that's on the CRD side, let me know. It's always nice having Mayor Murdochs on both sides of the border to kind of help expedite things if necessary.
It helps me from getting names wrong.
It does. It's very difficult to get the names right. Thank you very much, Mr. Jameson, for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your time, Mayor and Council.
All right, we move now to 10.2, which is a covenant amendment at 592 Island Road. Back to you, Mr. Green.
Thank you, Your Worship. The district has received a covenant amendment application for the property located at 592 Island Road. This covenant was registered as a charge on title by council as a condition of a rezoning application that created a new lot in 2018, and that was intended to protect not only the root zone but also the tree canopy. At the time of rezoning to create the new lot, a developable building footprint was also shown to be achievable on the new lot outside of the covenanted area. The purpose of the amendment application submitted by the applicant is to investigate through exploratory works the extent of the root system of a large garry oak tree within the tree protection area prescribed by the covenant. Originally, the applicant submitted an amendment to build a new house within the covenant area. However, following comments submitted by staff to the applicant is now seeking an amendment that at this stage solely to undertake exploratory excavation work in the area protected by the covenant as a first step to determining the impacts of development on the tree, and which would then determine if a potential future covenant amendment application to allow the construction of a new house, partially within the prescribed tree protection area of the covenant, is feasible. Staff are not supportive of the exploratory work or amending the covenant to allow encroachment of a new house into the area protected by the covenant. The district's arborist is also here this evening in case council has any questions regarding the garry oak. Should council support the exploratory excavation work in the covenanted area, and if no roots are found during the exploratory work, then the applicant will proceed with a further amendment application specifying a revised covenant area for the tree. Given that the site is subject also to a development permit, the applicant may also bring forward at that time a development permit for council's consideration, and will now need to include the impact of the proposed house on the covenant area, including the tree canopy of the garry oak. I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have. The applicant is also here this evening with his family to also answer any questions that council may have.
Very good, thank you. I'll turn first, probably the applicant can come forward if they're comfortable, and if there's questions, we can get to the, there may not be any questions for the applicant, but we'll, just so you're ready. Are there any questions for the applicant? Go ahead, Councillor Smart.
I have a question for staff.
Or staff, sorry, staff or applicant. Anyone, questions for anyone. Same process, council can ask questions of the applicant or staff. At the conclusion of questions, we'll go to input from members of the public. We do have a number of pieces of correspondence that have come in, so just be aware. And then once the public portion is completed, we will come back to this table for direction. Please go ahead, Councillor Smart.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, to staff. I just wondered if staff could elaborate a little bit more on their recommendation to deny. When I looked at this staff report, I guess I found the request to potentially do some exploratory work at the very edge of a root zone to be a fairly typical ask in the construction process, and so I just wondered, yeah, I guess if staff could just elaborate more, seeing the site plan on why this was such a concern. Thank you.
I think I'll give that to Mr. Paul.
Good evening, thank you. The root zone of the tree is going to be impacted somewhat by the exploratory dig, which is fairly common with new construction. We often ask for that to determine if the impact on the tree is going to be severe. The covenant says that you're not allowed to do that. So also there's something that hasn't been discussed in the topic in the report before, was the impact on the canopy of the tree if the house that was in the site plan was to be built. And even if they do not run into any roots in the covenant area, the canopy of the tree fills that covenant area, and if the building moves into that covenant area, there's going to be significant pruning done to the tree, which would reduce the canopy by about a third, which is more than we would normally recommend for pruning.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Go ahead, Mr. Bull.
Thank you, Mayor. I also would like to highlight, it's also referenced in the report, but the covenant came about following a rezoning. So as part of a rezoning application and subsequent subdivision, this covenant was put in place. It was determined at the time that there was sufficient space in the remaining building envelope to build a house. So that's another reason where based on the decisions in the past and the covenant in place, I think that's where the recommendation from staff comes from. Doesn't mean it couldn't be changed, but the rationale has been an agreed to condition in recent years, the impact on the trees and the roots and the canopy. So that's the background of the staff direction there. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Smart.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, to staff, I appreciate that extra information. I just wanted to clarify what I heard. So am I hearing that, that the critical root zone circle, and we all know that the root structure and branches are not necessarily within that exact circle, that the actual canopy of this tree is known to actually, it sounds like, exceed the critical root zone circle, when I hear it mentioned that a third of the canopy might have to be reduced should the proposed single-family dwelling in the site plan and the report be considered?
That's correct. About a third of it would have to be pruned.
Thank you. Are there other questions from members of council? Go ahead, Councillor Appleton.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I'm just wanting a little bit of clarification. It's the first time that I have seen this specific type of language used, and I will just reference the specific language. But in the tree management section of the staff report, the language that is used at the end of that section is that park staff believe that even using specialized excavation techniques, there will be impacts to the root system of this protected tree. So what I'm understanding by that is that essentially the exploratory work proposed here, in staff's professional opinion, cannot be conducted without an impact to the tree, irrespective of how it's conducted, even if it's comparatively low impact. And I'm not using a professional term there.
Over to Mr. Paul.
The impacts would likely be small if the excavation is done with proper tools, air tools, things like that, that remove the soil with very little impact to the, to breaking and cutting of roots. It is still it's still an excavation into the root zone. It's still a disruption to the roots, and anything like that is still considered a disruption. Proper air tools during excavation would limit the impact, but there would still be some impact.
Thank you. Is there anybody, nobody online has indicated they wish to ask questions? Just for my clarification, can I understand maybe from the applicant what the intended process is? What is a low-touch excavation process? Is this just so we have some understanding of what the intent here is with the ask?
Hi, Mayor and Council. For that particular question, I actually have Michael Butcher, my arborist, on the Zoom call as well, and he could maybe speak to his report where he actually did address the canopy and the specific limbs that he would be cutting in that report. So it's interesting that is being said that it hasn't been addressed, and I've never heard the third of a canopy being removed. It's actually a small to medium tree. In the report, it says specifically 3 or 4 times that this is a large tree. This is not a large Gary oak in comparison to what we see in Oak Bay or anywhere else in the area. But
Sure.
Michael Butcher could definitely address those questions.
Well, I mean, we're making this consideration at this time of
Yeah.
whether we'll allow the exploration to happen.
Yeah, of course.
We don't have the housing plan or anything else in front of us, so I think that context is helpful.
Yeah.
Over to you, Mr. Butcher.
Oh, hi, yeah, Mike Butcher, South Shore Forest Consultants. Referring back to Chris, we believe that the impact will be insignificant to low. And we've got a lot of experience, especially in Oak Bay, dealing with Gary oaks. We've done a number of exploratory excavations where we've used alternative excavation tools. I think if we were to start at the furthest end and slowly crept in with, an arborist on site, of course, that we'd probably be able to mitigate any moderate type impacts to this tree's root zone. There is some rock in the back, so there might not be as many roots as we think there will be, but we don't know that until we do, a dig. And, in this case, with my experience, I don't think that we are going to encounter large structural type roots that'll affect this tree. And basically that goes back to Chris Paul, your arborist. He basically said the same thing. So with that being said, this is a fairly routine exploratory excavation. And a lot of times we use a hydrovac, but in this case we might want to use an air spade in combination with hand digging, which we do a lot. And I'm 80% sure that we're not going to encounter any structural or mechanical type roots.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Butcher. I don't see other hands or questions of council at this time, so I'm going to just give the opportunity for members of the public to address council if they wish to on this matter. We do have a number of letters that have come in supporting the ask for the relaxation. There's an open opportunity here for any of the members of the public who wish to speak to council. You can come forward.
Yeah, please.
Welcome. Just
Hi.
name and municipality of residence, same process as everybody else.
Okay, I'm Nikki Tolmie, and my municipality is Central Saanich.
Welcome.
Thanks. So I am the owner of 592's Realtor, and we have listed the house for the lot, for quite a while. And when they agreed to the covenant, I don't think they realized how it would impact what anybody can build on that lot. And time again, we had the same comments. We can't build. And then maybe in 2018, things were a little different. Things are a lot more expensive now. Building's a lot more expensive. Everybody's comment was, we cannot build anything that is going to work on that lot. The only way they could is if they did it right up to the back line against the trees. But everybody who is interested in this lot had families. Everybody wants their child to play in a backyard. So that is, we were just getting the same thing over and over again. Why did they agree to the covenant? They had no choice. They had to agree to the covenant in order to subdivide. So it just doesn't work for a family house. It doesn't work for a family house with a suite. It's, and Oak Bay's policy is number one is housing, right? The canopy is not going to be affected. There are other trees on the property they're not touching. So it just, basically it's not going to work to build what a growing family needs to build.
Thank you for your comments.
Thanks.
Any other members of the public wish to speak? Oh, please come forward.
Good evening.
I recognize the neighbors.
Yeah, that's Rob and Anita Paris, and we're the owners of 594 and then the lot at 592 Island Road. And, we've done the rezoning process, and it's taken us an awful long time. And this is just more of a kind of a general statement of, we have an oak tree that was built within 10 feet of our subdivision that we did, our new house that we did in 2006. You drive through Oak Bay and like on Cadro Bay, on Lansdowne, you'll see a tree that is about 1 foot from Lansdowne. You see it all over the place, in Oak Bay. So I think I'm probably speaking out of turn here, but to me, it seems like the Oak Bay arborist is doing a theoretical approach to this and not a practical one. Because again, I think the oak trees are very hardy. We've had a driveway going over that oak tree probably since about 1945. We had a structure on that property that was a garage that we had to take down as part of the rezoning. So this oak tree, I think, is extremely hardy and will survive an encroachment to try and determine if there's a root system there or not. And that's what I'd like to say on that.
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Anybody else wish to speak? Oh, we have one more.
just
Same
wanted to-
process, just name and municipality of residence, just the process.
I'm Anita Paris,
Yes,
and I'm at 594 Island Road, and I own property on 592 as well with Rob, my husband. And I just would like to know why there was a covenant put on a protected tree. Why is all that area in a covenant? What was the purpose of it?
Sure, we can't turn that to staff because I don't think they were here at the time, and the why is always a tricky one to answer.
Yeah, and I'd also like to know if the council did a drive-by and had a view of, to look at it and see what it looks like. We would, we would love to take you out and you could look around that area and walk the lot. Also, we would prefer to have a family on that lot instead of maybe 3 or 4 townhouses, which can probably be done on the back of the lot, which would be really a huge impact on our neighbors and us as well. And we would really love to have a family there. We've, the Parises have been there for almost 90 years. So it's part of our soul, and we would love it if we could have family and build the community and bring some kids in.
Thank you for
Thank
that. I'll do my best to answer that and let the applicant come forward. Again, I don't see any other members of the public. I'm just going to make sure I check. Wishes to speak online? Not seeing anybody else. Okay, so I'll come back to this table. I'll do my best to answer the why, but it is from my memory, and I think if there's 7 members of council, you might get 7 different answers. But my recollection of this at the time that the subdivision was being considered for approval was that there was concerns about those trees, and that just to make sure that it was clear essentially that the future development not impact those trees. Because trees, if otherwise protected, generally speaking, if they're within a building envelope, can be taken down, and they were considered to be important for that streetscape and that aspect. And so at that time, a covenant was put on, which essentially drew a polygon around the trees. And that is a sort of a rough outline of the outline of the trees to kind of indicate where that was a no-build zone, because certainly if you're within that, outside of that, it was a safety measure. I think the ask, as I see it here, is do we want to nuance that, consider changes to that, and to look at the specifics of the site in terms of what the actual routes are, as opposed to drawing the polygon around. That's my recollection of it. It was intended to prevent a building going in and just being placed sort of by default into that patch of trees, and it would result in them coming down because they're not protected if they're within the building envelope of a building. That's the background I recall.
Could I address the bunch of trees? I know that there's a.
Actually, I think I get what your point is, but I think the question here is we're just asking for the exploratory piece. So that's just my recollection of that, but that's where the polygon was drawn around. So no, it's fine. I think we'll have a discussion here. If we need some more questions answered, we can do that. I do want to move this forward. So I'm turning to members of council. Any other further questions? Please go ahead, Councillor Smart.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mayor to staff, I just wanted to clarify that if council does vote to approve this covenant amendment application, I just want to confirm my understanding that we would simply be approving the ability to do this exploratory work, and we're not approving anything other than that at this point. Thank you.
Mr. Green?
Through your worship, yeah, that is correct. And so if you approve this exploratory work, and if the applicant finds no root systems within that area, then they would come back with a covenant amendment and likely at the same time a development permit for the proposed new house for council's consideration.
Thank you. Good.
Mr. Mayor, is it okay if I say a couple things? Or is it my turn? No.
It's, you know what, we didn't really include, you've had a chance to speak, but please go ahead, just to keep it reasonably quickly, because I want to make sure we get through these items.
Yeah, of course. I just want to, first of all, say that we are committed to keeping this tree. Originally, that was the one thing when I first looked at this lot, I thought, well, we'll get rid of the tree and we'll just kind of move on, right? We'll move it. But with that further investigation and just realizing that how things are protected and understanding how the covenant works, this proposal, going through the design process, was the best way that we could, and working with an arborist and, you know, the whole team getting together to determine what is the best way to keep the tree, retain it, and, you know, if anything, enhance that covenant. Because of the position, the way it sits right now, we would have to use that covenant area to play in, to, you know, for the kids to even have a trampoline in. So by not moving it forward and by not creating this backyard space, because of the lot being irregular shaped, it's not, there is a driveway that intersects and cuts through the backyard on the corner of it. So that makes it the way that covenant exists and where the building envelope would be. We would have to come back for a variance anyway, because we, at this point, we would have to move the house backwards, which would be, you know, so either way, we would have to come forward or backwards. But we just want to protect that area, and it's a big deal in terms of, you know, I think it just enhances the street, and it'll be part of, you know, a lot of enjoyment for years to come. And that covenant does cover 33% of the lot. I've met with staff, and we've been going in this circle. We started this process back in May. This was my original May 2024. This is the first time that we've been sitting here. So this has kind of been a very long process, but the question keeps coming back. Well, what's in the ground? What's in the ground? I can't provide that information to staff because we can't dig. So, or, you know, go through that exploratory process. So that's the tough part. So that's why we're here, is because we just can't resolve the question of how building. I'm asking, at the end of the day, it's 8.6 feet. Moving this house, this proposed plan into the covenant, 8.6 feet. Considering that the lot, you know, is probably 140 feet deep, you know, that 8.6 feet, it doesn't seem like a lot, but it adds to the backyard in order to, you know, make it livable, because we are, I don't know what percentage of that lot, we're probably 500 square feet, I think is the math, 500 to 1,000 square feet we lose through that driveway that cuts or intersects through the back of the lot. So obviously we're asking for that permission to go through the exploratory process. We are, if this, what we've designed in the plan is we're only moving this, we're still 16.5 feet away from the trunk of this tree. If say 6 months down the road, this was approved and we could build our dream house, we're 16.5 feet away from the tree, to the closest floating veranda on our plan. So it's, walking through the neighborhood, last Sunday, we visited all 10 homes that are impacted by, you know, whether you're looking out the window or driving out your driveway to see a brand new home on this lot. And we didn't encounter anybody who objected. Everybody was super keen. I've got letters and of support. So I think at the end of the day, it's all we want to do is move to Oak Bay. You know, we're committed to keeping this house, or sorry, the tree, and enhancing the property and contributing to the street and the community as a whole. So I think that's our plan. You bet.
Back at this table, I'm going to ask for a motion to receive the report, just because we need to start moving this along. Moved and seconded. Don't actually debate receipt. This is just for our information. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. Then I'll seek a motion from council for discussion. Go ahead, Councillor Smart.
Could I ask a question, Mayor?
Yeah, please go ahead, Councillor Braithwaite.
Thank you so much. And thank you to the applicant for their presentation and speaking so strongly for wanting to keep the tree. I appreciate that. But I also appreciate value the knowledge of our staff in regards to this, to what is being asked for. So my question would be to staff, and that would be, if there is exploratory work done around this tree, is there a a chance that it could damage the tree at all? And if, that's my first question, and then my second question would be, what would happen if this tree was damaged and ended up having to be removed? Would there be a fine or something similar put on the proponents? Thank you.
I think there's always a risk, so I don't know if is there a quantification you can put on terms of the riskiness of this approach, hearing what you've heard from the arborist?
Root zones of trees are always a bit of a mystery. We know there is some bedrock there, which will limit some of the root growing area that would normally be available to the tree. In the area that they were discussing, exploratory work done delicately, they wouldn't be damaging any large roots that they would encounter. Any damage would be to smaller roots. And that would just be the exploratory dig would have that impact.
And I might have to go to Mr. Bowl and Mr. Green to get that question, answer to the question on what is the process if a tree is damaged unintentionally and comes down? Is it just kick in the tree protection bylaw for one-to-one replacement, or how does that?
Normally, we would issue a permit to remove a tree that would be foreseeably damaged to the point of instability by a building, the work done necessary to build a structure. So if there was digging around a house to put in drains and the cut slopes and things like that, and it was determined that that work would destabilize the tree, the bylaw does allow the removal of that tree and requires a 2-for-1 replacement.
It isn't quite that scenario because we're doing exploratory work, so I think that's the question here.
Yeah, and if the exploratory work, in this case, if it exposed enough roots that it was going to damage the tree, I would assume that would be the end of the process.
Fair. That's certainly the intention of what it sounds like.
Yeah.
Councillor Apple, or Councillor
So they're
Braithwaite?
hoping not to find.
Yeah, so I guess my question is there a chance ever that, in this particular case, that there would be a fine for having to remove a tree? So I think there's a $2,000 fine if you damage a tree or remove a tree without permission. So I'm guessing from the answer that we just received from staff that would not be a particular case if that were to happen.
Mr. Bowl, I'm assuming there's some intent that follows that. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I think Mr. Paul explained how the tree bylaw could work, but I think more importantly, if the district, if council would direct to approve the exploratory investigation, there is an option 2 in the report. We would make sure that it's done under supervision of one of our own arborists. So it's really unlikely that that exploratory work would result in that much damage that we needed to pursue it. That's a very different scenario that we are trying to avoid and having preparations for, and you have an opportunity there to require that exploratory work to be supervised. Thank you.
Anything else, Councillor Braithwaite?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Appleton?
Thank you, Worship. So following up on that interesting point raised by staff, and I do note that option 2 here does include under supervision of a district arborist. This is a private and discretionary matter being brought before council. So does council have any opportunity to recoup staff costs associated with that supervision?
Staff,
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't think we have a clear answer to that. So we would initially look at our fees bylaw. I don't think this kind of scenario is covered there. So this would be something that we would need to take away and see how that works. At the same time, this covenant application itself does have a fee attached to it. But thank you.
Thank you. Don't see other questions. Councillor Smart?
Thank you. I'm willing to put the motion forward, option 2, that the covenant amendment application for the proposed exploratory investigation under the supervision of a district arborist for 592 Island Road be approved.
It's moved. Is there a seconder? not seconded. We need to have a motion on the floor for discussion. Not seeing any others. Okay, Councillor Patterson seconds. Go ahead, Councillor Smart.
Yeah, thank you. The whole point of this covenant is to save the tree. And at this point, we're simply looking at what would be really a custom approach to doing the best that could be done to save that tree. There's probably going to need to be exploratory work done for servicing this house, even if it is built not in the covenant. And I see the intention of this applicant at this point wanting to do the best for this tree while still trying to build the best home they can for their family. I see this type of work done on many projects safely. It seems like a fairly routine request, and if anything, a little bit more of a custom request of really trying to do a good job of designing the house around where the tree actually is sited. So I would like to see us at this point, without the next level of having the application before us, just at least give this applicant the chance to see what is happening under the ground to, decide whether or not they're going to bring back an application that may or may not amend that covenant. So I see this as a very reasonable request.
Thank you. Any other discussion? I'm happy to speak to the motion if no one else is speaking. Councillor Patterson, I'll let you go first.
Yes, thank you, and I thank Councillor Smart for the remarks. I'm not so sure that this is a request to save the tree as to verify how the lot will be used and the approach that will be taken in the future. I have witnessed two such exploratory functions carried out, and while the tree survived initially, within 3 years both trees did not survive. And so, respecting what the arborists have said, that's what I was also told on our street, and that wasn't the case. I guess my concern here is too that the applicant has said their first thought was to remove the tree initially, to purchase the lot, and there has been comments about the lot is not usable for anything with the tree in its existing position unless these variances can be worked out in the future. But I guess when the covenant was issued, it was believed that the balance of the lot could be used, perhaps not for the house that the applicants desire to build, but for a dwelling unit. So I wanted to hear Councillor Smart's opinion on this, but I still have strong reservations about the work being carried out, and that the tree will remain after the work is done.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. Looking for other hands. We're having a quick conversation here first. I'm happy to make a comment if nobody else is putting up their hand. So I'm going to speak in favor of the motion that's on the floor for a number of reasons. One is I think we know right now it's a difficult building time, and I think we want to be seen to be reasonable, where people are making reasonable accommodation. This is and I totally understand the staff recommendation. I think one of the things that was identified is that, council established a covenant through a process. It's not in their position to overturn that, right? That is, we said this is an area you can't go into, and it was designed reasonably within to kind of make sure that there would be no damage as a fiat. But, so they have no ability to kind of overtake that, and it's all risk, right? There's potential harm, so I get that. But as a governance body, we establish that covenant, so we hold the intent at this table, and I think that's where we have to measure the risk versus the outcome here. And so, the whole intent of this covenant, the entire intent, as sort of, the question was asked, was to protect the trees, to make sure that any development that happened on there protects the trees. And so I think the question is, like, is this exploratory approach reasonable versus the piece? And I do reflect, and I know a long history of this piece of property. It went through a long time of subdivision and went through a long time of getting the servicing done, and it took a long time now on sale. It is a difficult piece of land, obviously. Everything else in Oak Bay has turned over multiple times, and this one has had a hard time. It doesn't mean it's not sellable with that covenant in place. I'm not suggesting that we remove the covenant, but I think that us to allow a nuanced interpretation of that covenant and look at where the edges of that should be rather than just the sort of safe parameters as part of a covenant is a very reasonable ask. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this ask of exploring it would allow an informed decision to be made about the development of that property. Where right now we don't know what's underground, so all we can do is guess, and so we can't do anything. And I'm sympathetic. I think most people, if they own a piece of property and would like to develop it, would like to know what are the boundaries of what they can do. And what I'm hearing here is they're not asking for anything to cause harm. They're asking for the exploration to happen so they can make that reasonable approach. So I'm supportive of moving this forward. I appreciate staff's recommendation of having some oversight of it. I don't have any doubt that the intent of the owner and the applicant and the arborist are, will do everything in their power, but there's no harm in us overseeing that. And so, yeah, that's where I'm standing at this point. Any other comments? I usually speak last, but go ahead, Councillor Appleton.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to reluctantly support the motion on the floor at this stage of the game. It is not in my nature to go against. There's very strong language being used by staff in the staff report as far as potential impacts to the tree, and it is not in my habit, and I do not believe it's routinely proper to go against that level of advice. It seems like there is going to be due diligence applied, and I would not support this if this was not done without the oversight of our staff and with the input of our staff on the scope of it. Actually raises some important points for me as far as some potential amendments to the tree protection bylaw to cover such situations, to provide greater certainty and greater structure for these types of situations. Granted, they don't come up very often, but I think we do need that. We've just gone through a process of overhauling our tree protection bylaw to give us the best protections that we think that we can manage. And this seems to be a situation that falls a little bit between the cracks in my view. So I do not believe that this is a type of situation that we should routinely support, and I would be very clear at this stage of the game. Again, as it is described in the staff report, this is essentially a two-stage process. We are looking at a permit for exploratory work. I think everybody should be well understood that it is in no way presupposes what the outcome of that might be, or that any future permit application with respect to the actual building is also supportable. So I think that it's extremely important to draw a line under at this stage of the game. So I will tentatively support this at this stage of the game, and I will hope that we will get fulsome information back for Council's consideration in the future, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Appleton. Councillor Green, you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you, and I really appreciate all the effort that has been committed to this process, both by staff and by the owners and others. It's a really tough, this is a very tough situation, but I guess I'm mindful of the fact that the covenant was drawn and placed on this property for a very specific reason. We do in Oak Bay say often, and it's in all of our literature, it's in many of the decisions we make, and that is that we value and want to protect tree canopy. And in this environment of chasing density, currently I'm more and more concerned about our ability to be able to do that. I am not, I hope the owners don't see me as unreasonable, but I'm erring on the side of caution, and I will support the staff recommendation. But I appreciate all of the input, and I appreciate the comments of my colleagues. But in this particular case, I will vote for the tree in that way, and hope that there can be other alternatives found for this lot on which to build. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Green. Any other comments before I call the question? I'm afraid I may have lost Councillor Braithwaite. Oh, no, the laptop is still there.
I'm still here,
No, it's
sorry.
okay.
Yeah, I'm called laptop now.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I see you now. Thank you. Okay, I'm happy to call the question then. So the motion on the floor is option 2, which is to allow for exploratory investigation with the supervision of a district arborist. That's the motion on the floor, just so we're clear. All those in favor? And those opposed? Have Councillor Green opposed? Not hearing any others. That's one opposed. That carries. Good luck with the exploration, and good luck with the project. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Let's give you a chance to go back out. So back now to items 8.1, our engineering capital works plan. And we have the pleasure tonight of welcoming Mr. Samukovich. I think I probably got that a little bit wrong, but
No, that was excellent. Thank you, Mayor.
who is our manager of engineering capital projects. He's joined, thank you, Mr. Paul. Joined by Mr. Rennick, our director of engineering and public works. I understand that we have a presentation to go with this, and then we'll have an opportunity for questions. Give it a moment for people to have a chance to leave the room. Again, this item tonight is not for decision. This one is for information and to bring us up to speed on the capital plans. So very much looking forward to this update. We may have lost a lot of the public interest with the departure of the room, but hopefully people are watching online and able to participate remotely. There is no opportunity for public input on this because it is just for information. But we will do our best as council to ask any questions on the public's behalf. So with that, I think you've got everything set up now. Welcome, Mr. Samukovich.
Thank you kindly, Mayor and Council. I want to say good evening, Mayor and Council, and thank you for the opportunity to present the 2025 Engineering Capital Works Plan. It's an honor to serve our community through meaningful contributions to long-term service, reliability, public safety, and resilience. We recognize that this plan and presentation come at a time when residents are expressing concern over accessibility, infrastructure conditions, and the pace of change. This plan responds to some of those concerns through prioritization of essential renewals, essential infrastructural renewals, advancement of strategic goals, reflecting a balance between fiscal responsibility and maintaining momentum. I'll go through the presentation here, and I wrote this intro letter here from our team just to, again, thank the council for setting the strategic priorities and to recognize our responsibility to maintain infrastructure and deliver projects effectively. There's a lot of information in this presentation. I hope I didn't overwhelm you guys, but part of the challenge for me was kind of starting in January was to get a sense of all the great work we're doing and how that fits within some of our strategic initiatives. And I just want to say thank you to the staff with their support in allowing me to understand that and present here today. So part of my view of all this and the presentation is to demonstrate our understanding of the budget of the engineering capital project and to provide a capital projects update through the drivers, prioritization, pipeline, and the project snapshots. All right, so the slide, I don't know, can you guys see that? There we go. This slide has quite a bit of information, so I'm not going to get through it all here in this presentation, but I'll leave definitely opportunity for input at the end. The highlight here is that we have critically reviewed the capital works plan and considered the successful delivery performance indicators, so kind of KPIs, if you will, of public project, capital project delivery. Our key success indicators here were listed as programs and project objectives are met, our publics and infrastructure impacts are minimized, and permits identified and conditions met, and limits limit impacts of supply chain tariffs, of those known unknowns that are out and about. So we've listed the delivery risks there and some of the approaches that we're taking to manage them. We've highlighted some new initiatives within the department at the staff level, which we're also working interdepartmentally, and those are working out so far so good. But what we do want to caution is that this is a large capital plan, and with the large, almost, I haven't looked at the history books, but I would say that it's probably an unprecedented amount of capital delivery for the district. There will be risks associated with that inherently from a delivery standpoint, and we are aware of those. So what we're doing to manage those is, one, identify them, and two, come up with proactive measures to make sure that they don't get away from us. Yeah, so that's kind of the summary of this slide. So moving on here, I was working, part of the presentation was we were looking at last year's presentation that was prepared by Pierce and Ed and Steve. And we looked at the, we looked at providing the prioritization framework. We kind of promised that last year that we would do it this year. So we wanted to add a bit more definition for the council and the public on how the department looks at all the needs for the projects and how we select those projects and then prioritize them. So part of it is the long-term sustainable funding program plan that we've had in place for a while now. The information in this plan I wanted to highlight gives us an idea of areas within the infrastructure that basically what percentage of infrastructure we should plan to replace. The council priorities plan, as we're all aware, highlights specific areas where council would like to prioritize those types of projects and initiatives as part of our ongoing infrastructure replacement. So part of our capital plan is focusing still on the active transportation strategy. And then we've got the commitments from a regulatory standpoint in delivering infrastructure, which, you know, go from everything from asset management to documents of professional practice, and so on. Further to that, there's a climate, I don't know, sorry, I've got a few more things on my screen here, but climate and emergency preparedness readiness. I know that we've recently had a emergency preparedness, correct me if I'm wrong here, but plan come out for the district, community risk assessment there, and we're looking at that as well as some neighboring municipalities and provincial guidelines on how to integrate climate readiness in our project plans. And we'll get to some of that as we highlight the projects that we're working on. So now that we've kind of got the needs, we still have to add to that the master plans. And so what we do and what we've been doing for the years is getting consultants to support us in looking at specific infrastructure areas like pavement, storm, sanitary, water, and sidewalk and pavements. And these reports come in and they have a lot of information specific to a location, specific to an asset. But they don't give you projects. They don't give you a capital plan. You have to go through that and take a look at those needs from if the infrastructure had a name, they would have a list of names of the things they want to be replaced. But somebody has to take that stewardship of those pieces and put them into play through a project. And then how do we do that at the departmental level is we work with the engineering and public works crews. And so what we have is operational and maintenance crews come to the engineering office, and we sit down and we look at the large plans for water, sanitary, and storm, and we identify areas that the operators are aware of that are either near failing, that are often having service calls, so they're intimate in the field knowledge. And we combine that with those master plans and those other drivers we talked about. And that, in a nutshell, kind of from all those inputs, we've been historically selecting projects based on that approach. So, well, this slide also highlights on the right there that this takes us a lot of time. It's a very judgment-based, experience-based. You got to have the right people in the room, and it takes a lot of time to go through all these pieces of information, all this data. And an opportunity operationally is for us to computerize, I guess, this through dedicated software. So we do know that the province and some jurisdictions have opted for this approach. And we also know that the asset management leads are leading an initiative to look at which software approaches we can implement. But in the meantime, I wanted to highlight also that we're not waiting on a magic piece of software or anything in that sort. We do have to maintain our delivery of the project. So we are using this approach that I've mentioned in the selection. And then once we've had the projects selected, we put them into a centralized tracking list, and we provide assignment to staff so that a project, an initiative has a name and a plan, a preliminary plan. At that point, we transition into prioritization, and this is where we, again, bring some senior folks into the room, and we look at risk-based decision-making, and that includes frequency of asphalt safety, structural integrity, capacity, and critical priority areas that we need to focus on. Now, not every project is critical, but a lot of them are. We have a lot of aging infrastructure. And what we don't want to do is be in a sort of a reactive state all the time and just go our top 10 every year. So what we're also doing is looking at project readiness. So even though a project might be high criticality, we must replace it, we must think about it. If it's not ready to be deployed, shovels hit the ground, we have to also look at other projects that are important. And this is where we kind of fit in some of the council priority projects as well, like active transportation. So they're not getting a second priority, they're just, we do have to prioritize things like water mains and breaks, but as soon as we basically run out of shovel-ready projects, we make sure to look at other initiatives and priorities. All right, and then we'll jump here. So this is an internal project dashboard that we've started, and it's serving us quite well. It allows us a line of sight to the project description, like the components of that project. A lot of our projects are multi-service. We don't have specifically water projects or storm projects. We have many different utilities involved. And part of that decision-making is to limit the impact on our residents as well. So I don't know, it's hard to zoom in here, but you could probably do it on the PDF attached to the agenda. You'll see all the components of these projects. You'll also see the ones that are delivered by contractors and public works. And I guess at a high level, what we want to illustrate here is that we're tracking every project phase in a Gantt chart style internally to get a good sense of how we're coming along, how we're doing, and if things need to be shifted and moved around, we're not waiting. Other projects that could take the opportunity of a paused project, they're not being delayed. So we're managing the program, not just specific projects. Okay, and we put the active transportation projects on a separate slide. This is not to indicate that they're a secondary opportunity, just that we couldn't fit everything on one slide, and it was a good categorization to put these together so you could kind of see them in time. So you can see we have the planning, the RFP design, the detailed design stage, and then the IFC and construction. Shown those in those colors. I also want to highlight that on April 22nd, we have our senior active transportation planner coming over, who we've hired, Lauren. So we're looking forward for her to start and support us with moving these projects along. All right, and then I'll just kind of provide a high-level snapshot of some of the projects. We've included quite a few here, so I'm not going to go through every one of them. They're there for information. We can open it up for questions, but I will speak to some of our major ones. So Uplands, I'm sure everybody has heard about that project, and we are going along on the construction. We have hit some challenges at the beginning with archaeological finds, and it's a large project with a lot of complexity for our typical work, but it has, I would say, gone back on track, and we're definitely seeing a lot of work go into the ground. That the communications with the public has gone quite well, and yeah, that one's moving along pretty well. McNeil Utility and Traffic Calming, so this project is moving along as well. I was going to highlight some other ones here. Yeah, so this is one of the cycling route projects as well. We are nearing the detailed design finalization here and hoping to go to tender in May, June of this year. So that's coming up. Estevan Storm and Water as well, a lot of work happening out, and there will be some potential conflicts with the Tea Party this summer, and we've been already in contact with the planners and are proactively addressing that so that we don't get to any surprises. Yeah, I could go on and on here, but I wanted to say one more that I find interesting. It's in my neighborhood. It's the McNeil Bay erosion, and I earlier mentioned the climate resiliency and readiness aspects. So this project has been on the books since I think the year I was born was the first slide, and in the last 10 years we've really started to see some increased erosion and started monitoring it. So we're putting an RFP out in the next few weeks for preliminary design services, which will also include a public engagement piece to look at a couple options to select the designs and move them forward. All right, I could, and I should mention this one, of course. Holte and Henderson is one that a lot of public engagement did go into, and we got our What We Heard report. From that report, we worked with a consultant to optimize or make the best amount of compromises that could be made to make the project move forward. As we know, some of the discussion around parking spots has gotten to a point that we're waiting for direction from council on approval on this one, but we're very close to, once we get that, to moving this one along. And I know both the Public Works and Engineering Department together were excited about this one because a lot of the work of this project actually doesn't involve a lot of excavation or physical impacts. It's a lot of line markings and paintings which can be implemented pretty quickly after that approval. So we are quite keen on seeing this one go through. And yeah, sorry, there's lots more, and I respect everybody's time here. It's late, so I'm going to just flip through these and allow some comments at the end, if that's okay.
It's fine, yeah, and everybody's had a chance to go through these slides in advance, so if there's questions, I'm sure they'll come out in the course of the questions.
Yeah.
Do you want to just touch at the end here about how people find up-to-date project information?
You bet. So thank you for that, Mayor. We've had new communications. Our communications teams rolled out a brand new website which has a nice summary of all the infrastructure projects, and we're updating. It's new, so there's a couple projects missing on that. But the nice thing that it does is it takes you to the Connect Oak Bay website, which is our primary public communications and engagement tool. And in addition to that, the public have access to Municipal 511 through the Connect Oak Bay website, and we also provide notifications regularly through the Oak Bay local newspaper. So for up-to-date, I guess the short and sweet of it is head to our new website, click on the links, and check out Connect Oak Bay.
Thank you very much.
You got it.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm curious, is this the first time you've presented to council? Yes. I know it's the first time you've presented to that. I'm not sure if your background, had you presented to councils in the past?
No, this is my first.
All right, well, hey, welcome,
Thank you,
welcome. It's
it.
always a bit nerve-wracking the first couple of times that you do it, so well done, and appreciate that. So again, not for any direction here tonight, just really for information, but certainly in our first chance to see this kind of broken down in this way, and really appreciate that. And certainly I think comments or questions, welcome to move forward. Please go ahead, Councillor Patterson.
Yes, thank you, Mayor, and through you to Mr. Samukovich. Is that right? Yes. Samukovich. Thank you very much for the report. I know it's difficult to condense so much work into just a few pages of commentary, but I do appreciate this. And nice picture of George, so I can see all the water people were in the meeting, so that's good. But under the delivery risk assessment, that's kind of page 7 of the presentation that we have. It does talk about the department's staff resourcing and systems to manage large capital program are untested at this scale. And I'm just wondering if you could share with us what actions you're taking to identify any, where the strengths are, where the weaknesses are, and identifying ways to compensate for those.
Sure, over to you, Mr. Samukovich.
Through the mayor, thank you for the question, Councillor. Yes, it's an accurate statement in that our delivery resourcing is untested just given the scale of what we are delivering. However, it's not to say that the skill set and the staff that we have can't be applied to it and deliver the work successfully. So there's a challenge there in seeing, like as you pointed out, how are we bridging the gap essentially. So one of the key aspects is how do we deliver 5 times the capital, say, with the same amount of people. And we look at approaches to try and work with our consultants to leverage as much of the risk management with them. So part of that is making sure in our RFPs with our designs, our contracts, we are very clear which risk transfer piece we expect them to do with us, and that it's not just a matter of we're just hiring you to do the specific piece of the project. We are requiring agency of through delivery. And another aspect of it is making it clear to ourselves what are the value chain items that we strive to look at when we're delivering a project, and where is the risk. So early identification of the scope and continuing to keep that scope managed, and also making sure that we check in on those risks, and we check in with the consultants on regular meetings. And so we're basically leveraging by relying on our consultants, we're relying on our staff to take more of a larger, higher view of the project and focusing in on the performance rather than doing all the administrative steps themselves and checking in on contractor quality records, checking in on all those things. We're still making sure they're happening. We're just stepping up a little bit and looking at a broader view. So that's one strategy that we're implementing. And the other one is documentation. So just making sure that we're providing each other updates on a monthly basis on projects and allowing us that line of sight of what's happening, and then being in a position to provide quarterly reports to the director on project risks, change orders and things like that. So more of a organized structure than project by project management.
Thank you very much for that very detailed response, Mr.
Yeah.
Samukovich. I do see that Director Rennick apparently wishes to add something to that as well. Please go ahead, Mr. Rennick. Maybe you put your hand up early, so maybe he got to the point you were trying to make.
Yes, thank you, and through the mayor, I just wanted to add to excellent response that Mr. Samukovich gave, which is that one of the ways that we deliver on a capital program is by bringing in qualified staff such as Mr. Samukovich, who help us to develop stronger processes, stronger documentation. Really, it's not about getting more tools, it's about using the tools that we have in the most effective way. And we really have a great deal of confidence in the staff that we have and in the investments that council has made. And so it was a really good answer, and I didn't have a lot to add to it. So but thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Rennick. Anything else, Councillor Patterson? Okay, that's great. I have a speaking list to Councillor Appleton and Braithwaite and Smart.
Thank you, Worship, and through you to staff. Welcome, Mr. Samukovich. Thank you very much for your time tonight. We really appreciate your contributions here. Just one comment and maybe a question as well. I'm just wondering, this is there is a ton of information in here, and it's all really great information, and we've really leaned in heavily to providing updated information on Connect Oak Bay, which is also really benefiting the community. I think this obviously exists in a public meeting package, so it's available to the public. I'm just wondering whether something of this nature, almost exactly as it sits, might just be transposed over to Connect Oak Bay, whether it might get parked under the infrastructure section of the Connect Oak Bay, just for extra information for people to have. So just a comment, potential possibility or suggestion to staff. I think it exists as a pretty good summary both for council and for the public, just as it is, and appreciate all the information that's contained within. One question that I have is with respect to just the staging diagrams, just the staging and date layouts that are included, which are also comprehensive. I note that there's some projected dates for the active transportation projects being designed and implemented, which I know are tentative at this stage of the game and are not, obviously not set in stone. Just with respect to, there's a commentary here about the active transportation lead coming on board and onboarding in April and May of this year. It was my understanding with respect to the active transportation projects that when we last prioritized as a council and selected some of the smaller scale projects for moving forward, that there was going to be a discussion with council about prioritization of some of the quote unquote larger scale projects, some of the bigger pieces of the active transportation plan. So there's a proposed layout here, which I think obviously helps for broad work planning purposes. But the question is the intent for the active transportation lead to come back around to council to have a more detailed discussion with respect to prioritization of the remaining pieces of the active transportation plan?
Mr. Savukovic.
Through the mayor. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the question. And I would probably, to give you the most accurate answer, have to respond at a later date with input from our team. But I'm going to give you a general sense that our expectation is not that we're hiring somebody who's going to lead the way through some of the tougher months ahead. We are planning, we have a plan already in place for how to advance those projects. So one thing we do have is the confidence that we'll hit the ground. Well, we're already running, but one of the key contributions that this team member is going to provide is that cohesive program-specific management of the active transportation project. So it's going to be a very focused look. And so to answer your question as to whether or not there will be future updates, I do suspect so, and given that it's a council priority, I believe we have an obligation to provide council with updates and briefing updates on the projects. So yes, I hope that answers your question.
Well, Mr. Reddick has his hand up again, so he may have some more information. Go ahead, Mr. Reddick.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it's a little awkward that I'm at home and not sitting at the table right next to him, but that's okay. Council's next opportunity to have a touch point on the 9 priority active transportation projects will actually be at Committee of the Whole next week. There will be a discussion around some potential approaches for community engagement that will potentially have an impact on the sequencing and staging of these projects. And I believe there will be a good opportunity for a very fulsome discussion about that at Committee of the Whole next week.
Thank you for that, Mr. Reddick. Very good. Thank you. I have Councillor Braithwaite and then Smart.
Thanks so much, Mayor. And thanks, Mr. Smilkovic, for the presentation. And it was very great. And I think you've done a good job on your very first one to council. My question, I'm hoping it's allowed, Mayor. I'll let you make that determination after I ask it. I notice on some of the projects that there is some sanitary sewers being augmented along certain streets. And I know in the past that when we do something like that we allow residents to then do a new hookup to the sanitary sewer at a discounted price. And I'm wondering if that's something that is going to happen with some of these projects, and if so, how the public finds out.
Sure, I'm not sure. Go ahead, Mr. Samukovich, if you have the answer. I have to go to Mr. Reddick.
Thank you.
Mr. Reddick has his hand up.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Go ahead, Mr. Reddick.
Thank you. Through the mayor, council will recall that previously the public sewer bylaw had very stringent conditions for when the discount could be offered on sewer laterals. We had to be replacing the sidewalk in order for that discount to be available. council recently amended the public sewer bylaw to make that language a little bit more flexible to allow for when there is an opportunity that there potentially could be cost savings to the district, that those cost savings could be passed on to residents. This, for example, has happened with the Estevan storm project. And our approach has been to send out letters well in advance of the anticipated start of construction when we know there will be an opportunity for residents to potentially take advantage of cost savings. And how we determine which projects we'll offer it on, it's essentially we need to look at that project in totality of, are we only replacing the sewer in a very narrow trench in the middle of the road so that it would not be economical to replace the services, or are we doing a corridor-wide rebuild where there is that opportunity for cost savings? So we essentially have to look at each project on its merits to determine will there be a discount offered in this scenario or not.
Thank you, Mr. Rennick. Anything else, Councillor Braithwaite?
No, that was a wonderful answer. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. I turn to Councillor Smart.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mayor, to Mr. Smokovic.
Smokovic.
Smokovic. Thank you.
It's okay.
I really appreciated having this comprehensive look at what is happening in engineering. So thank you for that cohesive perspective. And I'm hearing that I should probably reserve any active transportation questions to next week. But I guess I just wanted, in receiving this report, I'm understanding we're not confirming the timeline or order of the active transportation projects tonight. This is just information as it is, and we'll have a touch point soon with active transportation.
Yeah, I mean, through the mayor, it is, the intention is to report on it cohesively as it's part of our department. And I would look at this schedule that we provided as our best sense of the planning phase. I would look at the design and the construction phase with a grain of salt, just because we shouldn't really promise the next step until we've completed the current one. But I think the general sequence of the projects is what we're planning, and it's actually consistent, I believe, with the recommendation to council in February for the timelines from commencing the project, not completing the project. So where the projects sit in the schedule is generally consistent with that. So we are still targeting that. There will likely be some considerations as we start looking at the detailed designs and public engagement. We shouldn't promise delivery of projects with, shovel hits the ground until we've completed that. So,
thank you.
Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mayor. Thank you for that. I guess I was a little bit surprised at a couple things in the schedule, and one of them was that the Haltane Henderson Estevan Bikeway project wasn't, the schedule had shifted already ahead of our potential council decision. Are you able to confirm tonight whether the schedule could still shift back for construction to happen during the summer should, when it's revisited at council soon, if it does pass? Have we already lost the opportunity for that project to be constructed this summer?
Go ahead.
Through the mayor, we're being cautionary with our promises here. I think there is opportunity to bring it forward if we do get a quick resolution. And I mentioned earlier, it's definitely on our radar from the department as a quick win still, because of the scope of the work involved, being majority line markings and a few minor physical adjustments to the transportation corridor. So I believe we can shift that left a bit, but it does rely a bit on the confidence in getting the contractor on board. Now, the nice thing too about that project is we could probably do some of that work in-house. The challenge there is when we have these gaps in projects, we tend to jump on new ones right off the bat. So we've already jumped on a couple other ones with Public Works that we're planning to do to make sure we're not losing momentum. So yes, there's opportunity to move it left, but I wouldn't sway it too far than shown.
Go ahead, Councillor Smart.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, to staff. So my next question is just with regards to, are we planning to apply for another active transportation grant this fall, because I note in the schedule there doesn't appear to be any design occurring for a new project ahead of that potential intake. And so I just wanted to know if we were planning to apply for active transportation grant this fall.
Mr. Samukovich, I'm not sure if the grant application process falls under your knowledge, but if you can answer that, you go ahead.
Steve doesn't, through the mayor, Steve doesn't have his hand up, so, oh, he does already, but okay.
Okay, I'll go to Mr. Rennick. Go ahead,
There you
Mr.
go.
Rennick.
Thank you. Through the mayor, we are always keeping our eyes out for grant opportunities as much as possible and understanding what the province's stipulations are on how far along you have to be in a project that is actively being, that they're actively paying a grant for, and how that impacts future grant applications. As council is aware, we were unable to apply for the 2024 intake for the province's active transportation funding stream because the funding that was connected to McNeil, we had not started that project yet. And we will need to keep an eye on what the status is of McNeil to determine whether we will be able to apply in the 2025 intake or not. And I'm not able to give any more detailed information at this time, unfortunately.
Thanks. Please go ahead, Councillor Smart.
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mayor, to staff. So the next question I have is just with regards to the Estevan storm and water. And I just wondered what the impact was going to be or is currently on the local businesses, and is the district have a policy to sort of proactively support businesses should parking be blocked or there to be an impact to accessing businesses? I was just wondering if we could have more of an update on that. Thank you.
Mr. Samukovich.
Through the mayor, I think I can answer this one, Mr. Rennick, so I'm going to go for it, and then go to you for the next one. We have as part of the Estevan project and our major projects going forward, where part of our charter development is identifying communication engagement and notification processes right up front for projects before we bring on consultants or contractors. And this project, the Estevan project, has a project-specific communication plan, and we have followed through on door-to-door deliveries of letters. Now, I don't know specifically if the businesses have been contacted yet, because that's part of the second phase of work, but it's I don't see any reason why we won't be ahead as we have with the residents, with the businesses as well. I do know that we have already reached out for the Tea Party and the marathon with the organizers of those events to make sure that the contractors are well aware of those dates, and we are, I guess, taking the cost on the project side. Even if we have shutdowns on the projects, we are putting the community first in those short periods of time, making sure that the projects are getting out of the way, if you will, to make it happen. So I would think that to some extent, when it comes to businesses, we will be looking at the same way to try to minimize impacts. We do have so far it's been going quite well at the project from a communication standpoint. So I have no concerns right now for that.
Thank you for that. I will comment that the marathon runners might be able to jump a trench on the way out, but probably not on the way back. Go ahead, Councillor Smart.
Thank you. Just two more questions through you, Mayor, to staff. So my other question was with regards to when our active transportation projects are presented. Most recently, they are not including the McNeil project because it came prior to this active transportation plan, and it's resulted in a lot of confusion for the public, I think, as to the fact that that is part of our active transportation network and yet it's not. And I just wondered, is it possible going forward to include, knowing that it's going to be coming back to council, so to include McNeil in the scope of active transportation projects when it's presented, and also to reference the particular bike lane project numbers. I found it a bit confusing looking over the capital works plan with regards to it saying it's a Bowker project, not knowing if that was the Bowker Avenue project or the Bowker Creek project, because it didn't have 4.3F or 4.2A. And I just wondered, just going forward, understanding that this is a more general report, if we can just make sure that we're doing the best we can with clarity to the public. I wouldn't want them to assume that McNeil wasn't happening because it's not in some of the summaries.
I'll just leave that as a comment. I think we can just do our best. Go ahead, Councillor Smart, please. Last question.
Thank you. Sorry, my last question through you, Mayor, is just with regards to, and I appreciated the whole scope of this presentation being around how we're doing our most important projects, and when we have gaps, filling in smaller ones. And so my question is just with regards to one of those smaller projects, which is the end of trip facilities and maze gates that was put forward a year ago in our active transportation plan. I haven't seen any new developments in the Oak Bay Village, particularly around improving our bike racks, for instance. And I just wondered, is that still coming soon? Is there a way of, even though we have to work on our big projects first, making sure that some of these things don't get lost? Thanks.
Mr. Samukovich, I know there's different, yeah, go ahead, let you answer the question.
You know, through the mayor, a very important question, and yeah, nothing bugs me more than forgotten projects. I don't want to give you too much of an insight in what we do, but we do have a list called the orphan projects list. So yes, we are identifying those now. That the one that you spoke specifically about, I can't speak to, you know, the next 2-3 months, but it's certainly something that we can track and provide updates from time to time. My concern with getting too into the details and sharing that with the public is just the, you know, we are planners and designers in nature, and we're attempting our best, and, you know, getting to a level of commitment with something that's not commitment ready, you know, that could be an issue. So yeah, I guess in short, when we present general program level updates, we could certainly add a project code that coincides with council priority resolution numbers or others, so just so there's that line of sight, that clarity. But as far as specific pieces of projects, like, and I did read the addenda to this agenda, I guess, the letters from the public regarding some of the aspects with, like you mentioned, the bike locks on Oak Bay Avenue. That they are on our list, as well as the Oak Bay Wilmot crossing. That's one that we're trying to actually get done this year as well to improve that pedestrian crosswalk. And a number of other push button and details, safety, intersection safety improvements. So we do have projects identified at that program level, but I can't comment specifically as to where those locations are for the next few months.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Glad to hear it's on a list.
I'll go back to Councillor Patterson for a second time, and I think I'll probably wrap this up with a few comments. Go ahead, Councillor Patterson.
Yeah, thanks. And just following on that vein, then, it does say in here that the St. Anne's Monterey resurfacing was completed, but the pedestrian crossing that is in front of the fire hall, the lines moved out into the road, then the road moved into the lines. So that portion of it hasn't been completed. Are those part of the orphan projects, or is that will that be done as part of the closeout for the overall project?
Mr. Samukovich, if you have that detail.
Yes, through the mayor, thank you for the question, Councillor. So there's a remaining piece called lane markings and progress, and there is I think you're mentioning the sidewalk extension there around. That's a tricky little piece for us. We are aware of it, and we are having to coordinate with fire, with the turning radius and other aspects of the new equipment to make sure all of that makes sense. So that's to that extension. But you could see the before and after shots there. The after is not complete. We still have to complete the lane markings, but the extension of that sidewalk is a separate project because it requires a bit more stakeholder input. It's not an easy one.
Thank you. Please go ahead, Councillor Patterson.
Yeah, and just as a follow-up to that, something else that could be looked at is where the pedestrian path is. It goes through the low spots, so if it rains, that's where the largest amount of pooling of water is that pedestrians have to walk through, and it's certainly a splash zone to us also. So I think there maybe are some loose ends to wrap up on some of the projects.
Thank you, Councillor Patterson. I will probably need a motion to extend so we can get through some of the procedural pieces. I just want to extend my appreciation to staff, Mr. Samukovich in particular, for this report. Really great to have you on board, to have the coordination of these major capital pieces. My comments are really just, it's actually fairly incredible to see where we've come from, an almost entirely reactive capital project from like 5 or 7 years ago to these kind of forward-looking plans. We've got ways to go. But it's really good to see these pieces with the detailed condition assessments and stuff guiding it. Yeah, so, and I just wanted to point out, so from my observations of this, so really looking at this from the governance level, because we've been into the weeds a bit, but, you know, at the highest level here, you know, a couple of things that I saw when I was going through this, it would be good, and I think you touched on it, you know, just as one of the values or things driving it, that communication is a critical success factor from council's perspective. I know we hear about it if the communication isn't effective, and so I'm glad that it was mentioned and it's sort of captured in the back end, but maybe it may be useful to kind of, as one of the measures or pieces, this is just feedback, so just take it and as you sort of work through this iteratively year over year, you may or may not incorporate some of this. And the similar with the performance indicators and risks, I think it'd be helpful to have costs as one of those, because one of the things that we do risk, of course, is cost escalation or cost not meeting expectations. So having that sort of explicitly in there, I think would be good in our KPIs. And then I think something else that might be beneficial, and just being touched on here, is that even if we can't give timelines, I think just understanding maybe in that Gantt chart somehow where there's dependencies, where active transportation is going to follow the underground work, that maybe there's some way of displaying that as we're doing public documents, so it's a bit clearer, because they're there, but it's not necessarily intuitive. So that was my reading of it. I mean, it's a super valuable report, but that was just kind of my suggestions or thoughts as I read through it. So I think that's everything I had to say.
Through the mayor, thank you for all the comments, and we'll take those definitely as you know, rooms for improvement or growth. Just wanted to mention on the cost piece, the project outcomes include cost, schedule, and safety, as well as quality. So yeah, it's buried, but we might be able to break that out in the future. Just wanted to let you know that first cell in that table had that sort of buried into it.
Right, that's
Yes.
good. Yeah, it's. Thank you very much for that, Councillor Appleton. Please go ahead.
Your worship, I would make a motion to extend the council meeting until 10:15.
Moved. Is there a seconder? Moved and seconded. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? We, I think, almost done wrapping up. So I'll let you go at this point. Wanted to get you out of here before 10 after bumping you back in the meeting. So thank you for sticking around.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rennick, as well, for, I know you had to go and leave the premises, but appreciate you being here online.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor and Council, and I'm sorry I wasn't able to stay in the room, but I think Mr. Samukovich did great for his first time presenting to this council, and very excited to lead this team through what will be another great year. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Motion to receive the report?
So moved, your worship.
Seconded. Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. That moves us on to section 9. And we're just going to move through these in a reasonably timely fashion. So 9.1, I need all the bylaw pieces read aloud, and then I'll give some guidance on 9.3.
Your worship, I would move that the 2025 to 2029 financial plan bylaw number 4899/2025 be adopted.
And seconded. We don't usually debate on adoption, but I'll give a chance. Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. 9.2.
Your worship, that I would move that zoning bylaw number 3531, 1986, amendment bylaw number 4900/2025 be adopted.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. I'm counting on Councillor Braithwaite to speak up if she's opposed about anything. So for direction here, can I get reading the first portion of the anti-noise bylaw rescinding?
Your worship, I would move that third reading of anti-noise bylaw number 3210, 1977, amendment bylaw number 4902, 2025 be rescinded.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed. And then you can just move the next section of the, just say, move that the bylaw be amended as follows, is all that's required.
So, your worship, I would move that the anti-noise bylaw be amended as follows and then laid out in the agenda.
Perfect. Is there a seconder? Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Thank you for the staff for the clear report. It's very helpful. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? And then read aloud the last portion.
Your worship, I would move that parking facilities bylaw number 3.
Sorry, and further that anti-noise bylaw.
Oh, the further than, sorry, excuse me, your worship. Move that further that anti-noise bylaw number 3210, 1977, amendment bylaw number 4902, 2025, be read a third time as amended.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? That carries. That moves us. Parking facilities bylaw. Can we have you read that one aloud, please?
Mr. Worship, I would move that parking facilities bylaw number 3540, 1986, amendment bylaw number 4901, 2025 be adopted.
Moved and seconded. Thank you. Seeing no hands, all those in favor? Any opposed? None opposed? That carries. That brings us, we've done section 10, brings us to new business. I didn't hear of any new business or any new business from around the table. Seeing none, can I get a motion to adjourn? Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed? Not opposed? Oh, I called the question just as it turned to 10:02. So I was almost got to the 10:01. I thought we'd be within a minute. Thank you very much, everybody, for the discussion. Thank you again, Mr. Rennick, for being online with us. Have a great evening. You too, Ms. Williams. And we will see you all here next week.
Okay, good night, everybody.
Good night. Hope everybody has a great Easter long weekend.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
Good night.